Am I Joe from Jurors? No, don't insult Joe like that. She's much more attractive than I am. It's Josiah from Pondering Politics. Hey, everybody. We're here a little early. I was going to go live at 7 and then said, screw it. I've got nothing else going on. Ended my videos early today. Looks like we've got people representing all 50 states. Florida, Miami, which is in Florida. But you know what? We'll count it. Maine. Can you not hear me? Uh-oh. They said audio. Oh, okay, good. You gaslit me, Vincent. Yeah, so Yes to 50 goes live in 36 minutes. And then my segment with Luke Beasley will start at 7:50. It's going to go on to like 10 o'clock. But my segment with Luke Beasley will start at 7:50, so 20 minutes after it starts. 10 minutes after it starts, I'm going to leave you. The stream will be up so you can see it, but I will no longer be on screen because I've got to go into the Zoom stuff and get stuff set up. I'll be back once my segment is done. So we're going live now. It starts in 36 minutes. And then in 46 minutes, I'm going to vanish. The stream will be up. And then in 56 minutes, am I doing that math right? I am doing that math right. Yes, I am doing that math right. In 56 minutes, then I do my 10-minute segment with Luke Beasley, and then I'll be back. It's also National Voter Registration Day. So if you're not registered to vote, if you know people who are not registered to vote, let's get them registered to vote. This is good. So how is the sound? Is the sound not good? Are there issues? Everyone I talk to is saying California is voting yes on 50. The polling data I've seen is pretty favorable. It's not like we have to have a supermajority. They needed a supermajority to get it through the legislature. They got it through the legislature. All we need now on November 4th is a majority of California voters to vote for Proposition 50, and then Proposition 50 passes. Let's see. Trying to think what we could do in the interim. What's going on in the wonderful world of Twitter? Dare I even ask? Dare I ask? Let's see what happens. Let's see here. Let's take a look at who all is supposed to be coming out tonight, because I can't remember who is all on the lineup. People are saying no sound. People are saying no sound. Okay. So, a couple of things here real quick, folks. Let me switch over the live stream window. Excuse me. No sound on the TV. YouTube got sound on the mobile. YouTube. Interesting. Okay. So, yes on 50. Yes on 50. All right. Trump wants to rig the midterms. We the people will keep it fair. Thousands of Americans are joining behind California's plan to counter red states' redistricting maps. Join us live on September 16th, National Voter Registration Day, to do your part in stopping Trump from rigging the 2026 election. You've got the RSVP now. California register to vote. Let's take a look at that. And if you go to Yes on 50 Live, and I'll put that link in the description here. So they're also looking for donations as well to pay for advertising, fight the lawsuits that are coming from Donald Trump and his allies to try to stop this. to kind of like, sabotage this initiative. But if you go to yeson50live.com, it gives you the hyperlink that I just clicked on here, the California Register to Vote. I'll switch over there so you can see what it looks like. Obviously, if you're a California resident who is not registered to vote, sends you to Shirley N. Weber, PhD, California Secretary of State, and then that's where you fill everything in. So it's super simple. They make it as easy as possible, as close to a one-stop shop as you can be, which is really handy. All right, let's take a look here. So we've got David Pakman, Katie Fang, formerly of MSNBC, Representative Jamie Raskin, who I know we probably shouldn't have favorites, but full disclosure, he is my favorite Democratic congressperson, constitutional scholar. He's really, really good. You've got Harry Sisson, Eric Swalwell, Ben Meiselas, who is the founder of MediasTouch, Lysandra Vasquez, Elizabeth Warren, politics girl, a.k.a. Lee McGowan, Representative Pete Aguilar, my boy, my friend, and yours. Look at that guy, Luke Beasley, A.B. Burns Tucker. Now, this is Joe Carducci. So, again, somebody asked earlier, like, are you Joe from Jers? Like, yeah, don't insult her. Jack Cocciarella, the man, the myth, the legend. Brian Tyler Cohen, who alongside Governor Newsom is going to be responsible for making all this happen. Jasmine Crockett. Oh, my God. Hey, whoa, look, there I am, pondering politics. Josiah Eberlin. Damn, look at that stud. Mark Elias, who is, I think, just the powerhouse that we have here as far as like combating all the election nonsense. He's like the master of election lawsuits, defending Democratic initiatives, going after Republican initiatives. Representative Jimmy Gomez is who Luke and I will be interviewing at 7:50 p.m. Eastern. Dule Hill of the West Wing. He played Charlie. I'm blanking on his last name. Charlie Young in the West Wing. Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries will be there. Olivia Juliana, Zach Kimball. So, love Luke. So glad he is safe after his trip. Yeah, I agree. Luke, for those of you who don't know, Luke Beasley, friend of mine, friend of the show, went to Ukraine a couple of weeks ago and was actually out in the front lines. He was there with a journalist and the Ukrainian military. He got to see some crazy stuff up close, and he made it back safely, which is really nice. So you'll get to see him. We are in for a really big show. I hope so. Let's take a look here. Zoom in a little bit. Number one, learn how Trump is rigging 2026. Discover the unprecedented power grab happening right now. Trump and Texas Republicans are stealing congressional seats before voting even begins. Get the facts about how they're trying to manipulate maps to maintain total control, regardless of how Americans vote. Number two, join the fight with Prop 50. Be part of California's historic response to save democracy. Learn how the Election Rigging Response Act will level the playing field and ensure fair representation. Governor Newsom, President Obama, and Democratic leaders are counting on you to take action. Number three, take action before it's too late. The 2026 midterms are our only chance to check Trump's dangerous agenda. Without action now, Trump will have unchecked power for 2 more years at least. Get concrete steps you can take immediately to protect our democracy and ensure every vote counts. Yeah, this is a big deal, folks. So if you go, again, to yeson50live.com, you can get all that information. You can donate as well. It goes straight to them and their efforts to, protect as there are legal challenges and campaign efforts to get out the vote. This will go do precisely that. We're in, obviously, it's crazy times. The midterm elections are getting closer. It's not looking good for Trump in the polls. It hasn't been for some time. Now, what's funny is Democrats actually have more confidence that Trump and the Republicans can win fair elections than Trump and the Republicans do, right? Now, generally speaking, historically speaking, the party in power tends to lose either moderately or bigly in the subsequent midterms. But, it's entirely possible that not happen here, especially if Trump actually puts out, popular policies and delivers. But he hasn't so far. He really hasn't. And so the fact that they've been panicking for months and, conspiring with Texas to rig the voting maps, that's just like, it's a tacit concession. They genuinely believe that all else being equal, the Democrats are destined to win the 2026 midterms. I'm not that confident. I think I like our chances, but damn. Rip Robert Redford. Yeah, that was pretty sad. Robert Redford, legendary actor. 3 Days of the Condor, All the President's Men, Butch Cassidy, and Sundance Kid, and then Sneakers. I really liked Sneakers. That was in the late 80s, early 90s. Had Sidney Poitier in it. And then he did one that I've actually not seen that everybody says is really, really good, and I'm blanking on the friggin' name of it. It was like in 74, something like that. Anyway, and then of course, actually one of my favorite Robert Redford roles was in the second Captain America movie. He played Alexander Pierce. That was surprising. I remember watching that in the theater, and then the big spoiler involving Robert Redford's character in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I remember going, "Oh shit!" because I didn't think. I was stunned. He always plays the hero, except there. Best Marvel movie. Impeach Trump and his entire cabinet. Well, the good news is if you want to impeach somebody, all you need is a simple majority in the House of Representatives. The bad news is if you want to convict them of that impeachment, you have to win a supermajority in the United States Senate. So you would need 67 votes. Fun piece of trivia, Donald Trump's second impeachment was the closest we ever came to impeaching a president in the history of the United States. 57. It was actually the most robust bipartisan vote to convict a sitting president. And so, yeah, it was, I think, 10 Republicans, if I'm not mistaken. It was 10 Republicans. Was it 10 Republicans or was it 7 Republicans? But yeah, we needed 10 more. We were at 57 and we needed 67. The Sting, Indiana Girl had it right there. Yeah, that was the movie that I was talking about with Redford. I keep hearing that it's an amazing movie, but I have not seen it. The Sting. I don't know if this is a movie of his, Sandcastle, but now that occurred, that word castle, he did a movie back in the early 2000s with, I think it was James Gandolfini from The Sopranos. And now I'm thinking it might be Forrest Whitaker. I'm usually really good at movie trivia. I watch a lot of movies, read a lot of books, watch a lot of TV. It's called The Last Castle or The Last... something like that. Basically, he goes to prison. He's an ex-general. He goes to a military prison. It's a really good movie. Let's see here. I haven't heard anyone mention the fact that the Supreme Court actually voted 12 to whatever it is on the Second and Third Amendment and also the Fourth. The Second and Third Amendment. What's Supreme Court? Are you talking about the California Supreme Court or the U.S. Supreme Court? The U.S. Supreme Court only has 9 people, so I'm not sure, Elizabeth, what you're talking about. You're the only one I missed coming on, Steven. So you mean Destiny? Yeah. Appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. How is the excuse me? How's the lawsuit going in Texas? Depends on what lawsuit you're talking about. I think Mark Elias has filed some sort of lawsuit with Democracy Docket against. Okay, so I was right. It wasn't Sandcastle. It was The Last Castle. Okay. Has filed some sort of lawsuit in Texas, and he'll probably talk about it. Mark Elias is one of the speakers here tonight. I'm not sure when he goes on, but I'll be super hyped for that. Again, folks, as a reminder, here's what's going to happen. This thing goes live. Yes, on 50, the actual live stream event will go live in 23 minutes, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Then at 7:40, 10 minutes later, I will vanish from this screen. This screen will be up. You'll be able to watch Yes on 50 without me here on the channel. You don't have to go anywhere. But I'm going to vanish for basically 20 minutes. So we go live. The stream goes, the event goes live at 7:30. I will disappear at 7:40. My section of the event goes live at 7:50. So you definitely want to stay tuned to that. Like many people are saying, is the highlight of the stream. 7:50 when Luke Beasley and I talk to Representative Jimmy Gomez. And then I'll be back afterwards, okay? So just stay right here. Keep your eyes glued. Let's see here. Yeah, it's good. I mean, listen, as I'm sure you'll hear, I know, nobody likes gerrymandering, right? There should be a federal ban on gerrymandering. Democrats attempted to do it twice, once under the first Trump administration, then again under the Biden administration, but Republicans in the Senate voted it down. It made it past the House in both instances because of the Democratic majority in both chambers, but it was voted down by Republican majority the first time in the Senate, and then we didn't get enough to overcome the filibuster the second time around when we controlled the Senate. So Republicans have stopped it every single time. And if there's not going to be a federal abortion ban, a federal gerrymandering ban, then it doesn't make any sense for Democrats to unilaterally disarm with respect to gerrymandering if Republicans are going to do a full court press. So I understand, people having their issues with this redistricting process, but you got to remember, Democrats didn't pick this fight. Trump did. And we have every right to engage in what I call political self-defense. And this is political self-defense. Because otherwise they're going to try to lock us into a permanent minority, right? If they can because it's not just Texas. I think, Missouri recently voted. Florida's looking at it. Ohio's potentially looking at it. And so the only thing that Democrats can do and should do is say, well, when and where we can, we need to redraw the maps in our favor as well. That's the responsible thing to do. And then, put the Republicans in a position like, hey, how about we both quit and have a federal ban on gerrymandering and let the voters pick their politicians instead of vice versa. The West Wing made the Bush Jr. administration a bit more bearable. Yeah, listen, I know the West Wing catches a lot of shit. I know it. I get it. But I love the West Wing. The first 4 seasons of the West Wing, I think Sorkin left after season 2 or season 3. It's just like really, I don't know. It's like soul food for politics, right? As far as entertainment's concerned. Like subsequent political shows like Designated Survivor and Madam Secretary and... like a lot of these shows, like they were made in like that post-24 world where it wasn't like a really serious political drama. It was kind of more like, I don't know. The West Wing actually dove into like procedural nitty-gritty and like tried to really nerd out. Lawrence, the guy from MSNBC, Lawrence O'Donnell, he was like a consultant. They had like multiple political consultants that tried to make the show as realistic as possible. I mean, how realistic can it be when you had reasonable Republican politicians, right? It's definitely a work of fiction. But it went into like the procedural elements that made real political nerds. Now, as far as political dramas go outside the West Wing, I love Scandal. But that's because it's not realistic. That's just like popcorn entertainment, just sloppy drama dressed in politics. My guy is making meaningful content with my governor. You love to see it. I appreciate that, and thank you so much for the super chat. My bad, I meant Tallarico for U.S. Senate. Yep, he is running James Tallarico, who is a pastor and I think a fairly recent Texas state congressman. Obviously, his profile is just blown up because he had that viral speech a couple of months ago. He went on Joe Rogan. He's been everywhere. He is running for the United States Senate. Colin Allred, I think, was a good candidate. I think given the profile, I think Tallarico is probably the stronger candidate. Of course, he has to overcome the fundraising disadvantage because Allred's been campaigning for a while. But I think shortly after Tallarico announced, he had a really strong fundraising showing. So he'll probably catch up, and he just has an earnestness and sincerity that people really like. So if Ken Paxton wins the primary against John Cornyn, I think John Cornyn's the incumbent in Texas. Yeah, Cornyn is the Republican incumbent in Texas. The thing is, he's not MAGA enough for a lot of people. And so Ken Paxton, the current corrupt as hell Republican attorney general in Texas, this guy is like a cartoon villain with his corruption and just despicableness. Well, he's running for Senate too. So he'll probably beat Cornyn in the primary. And then if he runs in the primary, that makes him a weaker general candidate because generally speaking, the more MAGA you are, the less likely you are to win a general election, even in a state like Texas. Then it could theoretically become Ken Paxton versus James Tallarico. And I think Tallarico would stand a decent chance. Beto may be getting back in? Oh, surely not. Surely not. O'Donnell also played Bartlett's father. That's true. He played Martin Sheen's father in a flashback. Very good. He was a huge prick. He was a real prick in that scene. So well done, Lawrence O'Donnell. Let's see here. Let's see. Let's see, chat here. Again, this event goes live in 27 minutes. And then in 37 minutes, I will disappear for 20 minutes. My section goes live at 7:50 p.m. Eastern Time. It lasts for 10 minutes with Luke Beasley and Jimmy Gomez, representative, and then I'll be back. You are my favorite political commentator. I love MediasTouch, Luke Beasley, and Brian Tyler Cohen, but you are my favorite. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Those guys are all great. Listen, huge shout out to Brian. I think Luke and Midas do amazing work, and I have a bias towards Luke, obviously, because he's a personal friend of mine, and he helped me grow quite a bit. But Brian, and he's a workhorse. He's a workhorse. He not only covers as much of the democracy-related stuff as possible, it's like all the voting rights and voting maps and all these, like all the nitty-gritty in ways that, like, we all cover, but he covers, like, more in-depth. We have to tie it into other things. And he's been, like, leading the effort on, trying to protect democracy and elevate other content creators and things of that nature. Right? Like, he wrote a book called Shameless about the right-wing media ecosystem. You should definitely check that out. And, of course, Midas, man, they're killing it. Midas, they actually wrote a letter to Joe Rogan a week ago or something like that, because they're continuing to beat him in one of the podcast lists. I don't know if it's YouTube or Apple or Spotify. And so they're like, they wrote him a letter. And I would love to see Joe Rogan actually talk to the MediasTouch fellas. And of course, Adam Mockler he's a MediasTouch correspondent. He's killing it. I mean, he's up there with Luke in subscribers, and he's starting Mockler Media as well. So he's just doing extremely well. Let's see. Is Adam Mockler joining us? Adam will not be joining me, but Adam will be participating. Luke and I are doing a segment together, but Adam will be towards the end of the show. So if you want Adam, you're going to have to stick around towards the end. You're going to have to let this thing keep playing out. But he does have a really good segment lined up. I'm looking forward to watching it. Yep, Brian had a bestseller. That's Shameless. Mm-hmm. Mona Rogers, what is 50? I'm lost. Sorry. Hey, no problem. Let's pull it back up. So 50 is the proposition number. So on November 4th of this year, there's going to be a special election, November 4th, 2025 in California, Mona. And it's going to allow California to change its voting maps to allow Democrats to basically win 5 more seats, take 5 congressional seats away from Republicans. And in order to make that happen, California voters need to pass on November 4th Proposition 50. That's the name of the ballot initiative. If it passes with just a simple majority, then Governor Newsom and the Democrats will be able to change the maps in California and allow Democrats to get 5 more seats, potentially more, but certainly 5, almost certainly 5. And that will allow us to neutralize what Donald Trump is doing in Texas, because Donald Trump started this by going to Texas and saying, hey, I need you to redraw your maps, Texas, and get me 5 Republican seats. And everybody asked him not to do it. That's cheating. That's rigging the game. That's not fair. And when he wouldn't stop and went through with it, Governor Newsom said, okay, well, I'll basically wipe that out by neutralizing your 5 by taking 5 seats from Republicans in California. But the only way that happens is if California votes for it on November 4th. So unlike Texas, they can do it in their legislature. In California, you have to have a ballot initiative where the people vote on it. So that's what the 50 is. Hope that helps. Hey, Pencil, I appreciate that. Excuse me. I appreciate that. You have a very calming way of explaining things. I appreciate it, especially when the news does nothing but make me so upset. Listen, I'm with you guys. Like, there are other content creators in the space who have like a real Zen-like quality to them. They're very much they they exude a peaceful quality. I don't feel really peaceful because I'm very upset. So like where they're super calm, I'm anxious. I share your anxiety. You know, I'm a cynic by nature, and I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I've always been that way, and so it's really encouraging to hear you say that you feel calmed by hearing my political commentary, because sometimes I worry that I'm scaring the hell out of people, and to some extent I do, because I think this is a genuinely scary time. I think we do need to take it seriously. I don't think we need to assume. We should not assume that things are just going to work out perfectly like they do in the movies. You're all the main characters in the movie of politics. And so it's really up to you. It's up to the voters. It's up to all of us, political commentators, voters, politicians, candidates. It's up to all of us to take decisive electoral democratic action to win elections, win them more frequently, win them more decisively, and then to use that power to make the changes needed to reinforce that democracy, right? It's not enough to just win elections. Then when you have the power, you've got to do something meaningful and lasting with it. And so that's what I'm hoping comes from this. I'm hoping that we do take back the House in the midterms. It's possible, unlikely, very unlikely, but now possible, that Democrats can win back the Senate, because North Carolina, they are losing, my state, we are losing our Republican incumbent, Tom Tillis. Our very popular former governor, Roy Cooper, who just left office back in January, he's running as a Democrat. He's favored to win. Michael Whatley is the Republican co-chair of the RNC, a no-name guy. He's running against Governor Cooper, and he may win, to be sure, because North Carolina is a competitive state. But right now, it's slightly favored towards us. So that puts a state in play. You know, so if we imagine, you know, John Cornyn loses in Texas to Ken Paxton, this wildly corrupt, far-right MAGA lunatic, becomes the Republican nominee in Texas. Imagine James Tallarico beats him, so that could get us Texas. We get North Carolina. We've got to flip, I think it's 4 seats, if I remember correctly. I think it's 4 seats we've got to flip. So these are all things to think about. That's possible. Imagine a scenario where we win the House and the Senate. And then, whoo, then if we have the Senate, think about this. If we have the Senate, and there are any vacancies on the Supreme Court in Trump's last 2 years, we can just refuse to have a hearing for his nominees, just like they did to us in 2016 with Barack Obama. So not only would that protect democracy, think about how good that would feel to be able to give them a taste of their own medicine with what they did with the Supreme Court. So that should be extra incentive for you all to register to vote and to get out and vote. Let's take a look here. I agree, Josiah says it very calm. When I'm ready for a fight and yell and scream, I'll turn on Jesse Dollemore. I haven't caught a lot of Jesse's stuff. He seems like a really sharp guy. I didn't know what his disposition is, but yeah, that's good again, because I feel worked up all the time. I feel like panicked all the time. Why aren't more Democratic states putting ballot initiatives for map redraw? Unfortunately, the problem is there are too few Democratic states that can do it. So like take New York, for example. New York's law, there's more flexibility with California. Here's how you should look at it. Let's back up a bit. The Democrats put more burdens on themselves to prevent such a thing because many of those states have independent redistricting committees, okay? So to overcome that, you've got to go through more complicated processes than Texas. Texas was like, hell no, we don't want an independent redistricting committee. We want the right to gerrymander whenever we goddamn well please, right? So they're just more self-imposed burdens on the blue states. Number two, some of the blue states like New York, even if they were to do what California is doing, which is very possible, it wouldn't take effect until the next election cycle. So in California, they're going to be able to get, if we pass Proposition 50 on November 4th, they'll be able to do this in time for the 2026 midterms. New York won't be able to do it until 2028, right? So that's a big delay. And they're just more red states than blue. Plus, again, remember, you have to have total control of those blue states, right? You have to have the governor's mansion, the Supreme Court of the High Court in those states, and you also have to have the legislature. And I think they're all bicameral. So that's a lot of powers, a lot of like levers you have to control. Oh, I forgot Iowa's also, that's a good point. Iowa's also competitive, or at least potentially more. Actually, I don't know. Here's the truth. We may have been better off with Joni Ernst running as an incumbent because she was wildly unpopular and she was trailing her Democratic nominee. That was the lady who says, well, we're all going to die one day, when they asked her about her taking health care away from people. She's like, well, I'm sorry to tell you, everyone's going to die at some point. And so, like, a lot of people don't like her. She is apparently not seeking re-election. So it actually might make it easier for Republicans to keep Iowa because, sure, they won't have the incumbent advantage, but they also won't have her baggage. APAC money is funding both sides. No big money should be voted in. Listen, the only way you're ever going to get rid of big money, you got to remember, Citizens United effectively just destroyed our campaign funding and fundraising and financing systems in the United States, and it just opened the floodgates for big money. The only way you'll ever get rid of Citizens United is to elect Democrats, and we have to have a Supreme Court that will not strike it down. Remember, that's why it's so important. That's why one of my missions is to persuade Democratic candidates that whether they like it or not, they're going to have to change the Supreme Court. They're going to have to expand the Supreme Court, because any federal law that the federal government passes, so let's say you would get a Democratic president, a Democratic Senate, a Democratic House, if they're able, which as we know, it's really hard to do it, but if we're able to pass a law, the Supreme Court can strike it down. And we know the Supreme Court can come up with bullshit reasons as to do it. Oh, it's not originalist. Oh, blah, blah. Major questions doctrine, whatever. They don't need to actually explain it to people. They don't need our permission. They can come up with whatever legalese bullshit they want to strike it down. And then what? The only way to override the Supreme Court is a constitutional amendment, which you need supermajorities in both chambers, and then to get an amendment ratified by 3/4 of the states, which is why we've only had 27 amendments in 250 years. Think about that, folks. 250 years. What's the math on that? One amendment a decade, right? And there have been 10,000, literally 10,000 attempts to amend the Constitution. So constitutional amendments are virtually unpopular. What you need to do is you need to get Democrats in the White House, the House, and the Senate and tell them, hey, listen, we're voting for you, but the first thing you do is you pass a new law expanding the Supreme Court from 9 justices to 13. Add 4 more justices to the Supreme Court and get them through ASAP. Then you roll out a legislative agenda, right? Get the Supreme Court in place. Then you start to roll out campaign finance reform, overturn Citizens United, a national gerrymandering ban, blah, 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 all the stuff. But then you have a Supreme Court in place that's much more likely to uphold it. That's what you got to do. Okay. Remember, folks, this goes live in 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Why is this not working? Can you all hear this? They're playing some music, but I'm muting it right now. Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do this. All right, we're just going to do it like this for right now. Should I be on top or on bottom? Yeah, DC statehood. That's something else. Like we're going to need like that sort of action. You're going to have to make DC a state. You're going to have to make Puerto Rico a state. Because again, the Senate is lopsided towards rural conservative voters. So that's the thing. Like you're going to have to win elections and tell the candidates you vote for, hey, look at me. Supreme Court reform is a big deal, and I expect it to be on the agenda because, hey, if you're able to pass whatever you want, this right-wing Supreme Court, Mr. Senator, Mr. Representative, Mr. President, can just strike it down. So, hey, we got to fix the Supreme Court. Can you all still hear? Wait, I'm sorry. Can you all still hear the volume on the yes on 50? Because I muted it on my end. Is that music still blaring? Okay, good. Good deal. I have it muted. So again, folks, this thing starts in 2 minutes. It's supposed to start in 2 minutes. And then in 12 minutes, I'm going to disappear for 20 minutes, and then I will be back. 10 minutes to set up on the Zoom, 10 minutes for the actual segment, which you will see. So you will see me on the screen at approximately 7:50 p.m. Eastern Time, so in about 20 minutes. It's about to start. And remember, if you want any more information, if you want to donate to the efforts for this, go to yeson50live.com. And at various points, I may vanish just to test because I'm going to have to like switch cameras and all this stuff. So just be patient. You're going to see this thing. When I disappear, it's going to maximize the full screen. You're going to be able to see it all. The donations, as far as my understanding goes, and you'll hear more about it, the governor like can't use public funds. He can't use taxpayer dollars to fund this initiative, to defend it in court. He can't do that. What he has to do is raise funds for like all the media, all the advertisements, all that, because you can't use taxpayer dollars for that, is my understanding. So that's what the donations. The donations do not go to us. The donations don't go to the creators or anything like that. I'm not getting a dime for this. This is purely to defend, as far as I'm aware, Yes on 50 from all of the legal challenges that are coming from Donald Trump and his allies, including a lot of people in California who don't want this to go through. And as well as to pay for the all the media and like the advertisements and stuff like that. All right, let's see. I'm going to turn the audio. I'll see what happened. Oh, God.
That are going to come in from across the country on the Republican side is we're going to ask you to go ahead and donate to yeson50live.com. This will help our efforts to make sure that everybody in California knows the stakes of what's going to happen on November 4th, knows the stakes of this referendum coming up, and knows that it is existential, again, not just for Democrats, but for the preservation of democracy itself. So that's going to be an important point that we're going to hit on numerous times throughout this evening. So with that said, I'm now honored to be joined by the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. Thanks so much for taking the time.
It's great to be with you, Brian. Thank you.
So we are obviously broadcasting right now in the midst of a really difficult week. We have seen gun violence occur with the shooting last week against Charlie Kirk. We have seen the overt assaults against free speech at the hands of Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and all of these other purported free speech warriors. And so in light of what we're seeing right now, I'm sure that there are a lot of folks who are watching this who feel exhausted. And so what would you say to those people who are watching to let them know that this is worth staying on top of, this is worth continuing to fight for?
Well, I first say is you're human. If you're not feeling exhausting and anxious and in some ways fearful, then you're not breathing, you're not living. And I think we have to give some people grace. The last 5, 6, 7 years, we've been through a once in a lifetime pandemic, social unrest. We went through all of the challenges coming out of COVID with supply chain issues and runaway inflation and wars of aggression in Ukraine and challenges that we're continuing to work our way out. And so I just want to acknowledge all that stacking of stress that everybody's feeling. And of course, last week, just the ultimate punctuation. For what it's worth, Brian, you know this. I started a podcast not too many months ago, and Charlie Kirk was my first guest. He was gracious enough to not only say yes, he flew out to do it in person. And I spent not just the hour plus in a very civil conversation with Charlie. I spent time with him after, and we stayed in touch, including my team stayed in touch pretty consistently. And that's the spirit I want to bring to this conversation, is one of civility, one of grace, one of humanity, common humanity. Obviously, we have deep differences of opinion. Obviously, he was very offended by positions I hold dear, and I, in turn, very offended by things that he said and positions he held. But the fact is, we had that opportunity to engage. And so I would say, in response to your question, it's absolutely essential that we, in the spirit of this moment, hold ourselves to a higher level of civility and accountability. In the spirit of this conversation, accountability to the moment we're in and the consequences of giving in to cynicism and anxiety and fear. And I just say to everyone in closing, in this spirit, you're the antidote to that cynicism, that fear and anxiety. The fact that you've tuned in means you've not tuned out to what's at stake. And I cannot impress upon people watching, it's all at stake. This is a profound and consequential moment in American history. We can lose this republic if we do not assert ourselves and stand tall at this moment and stand guard to this republic and our democracy. I feel that in my bones, particularly in light of what's happened in the last week.
So let's talk about the California map redraw, this situation that we're in right now. We have, not that many weeks to go until this referendum, until November. And so there are going to be folks watching who say, look, California is a big blue bastion. Why do we have to worry about this? This thing is already a done deal. Why is this worth talking about right now?
Well, because it's Prop 50 for a reason, impacts all 50 states. It's just not an electoral map. It's a simple math issue. You said it in the outset. Donald Trump realizes and recognizes that he is likely, almost overwhelmingly likely, to lose the midterms. And so he's trying to hold on to power. And the only way he can hold on to power is to rig the system, to change the game. He's not playing by a different set of rules. He's playing by no rules whatsoever. And that's why he dialed up Greg Abbott in Texas and suggested that he's, quote unquote, entitled to 5 seats. They did his bidding, and as you suggest, that bidding is being done in real time in Missouri, in Indiana. It will be advanced in states like Florida, and you may have seen today the comments that were made about Utah and Ohio as well. So this is as real as it gets. And the whole idea of redistricting, I assure you, is the tip of the iceberg, because he's also setting up the parameters and the condition where he can suggest that when he loses, that's up to us if we do our job, when he loses the midterm, he could suggest it was rigged itself. He's quite creating a chill. And let me give you an example of what I mean by that as it relates to voter turnout and intimidation tactics. When we kicked off the campaign for Yes on 50, we did it at the Democracy Center in Southern California. Brian, you were there in Little Tokyo. You know well, and many of you watching know this well. Little Tokyo is the site, sacred site, where we shamefully bust the Japanese as we interned the Japanese. That happened. And at that exact same site, Donald Trump sent masked private army. He sent out Border Patrol and ICE to intimidate to us, 2 U.S. senators, a half dozen or dozen members of Congress, 100+ community leaders, to try to intimidate us from holding the rally in the first place. And a poor soul that just happened to be out there selling strawberries was disappeared by that same private army. That is a preview of things to come, I assure you, at voting booths and polling places across this country. Just as we said after he federalized the National Guard, and he sent the military, not overseas, he sent the military to a United States city in Los Angeles, 700 active duty Marines, is intended to chill free speech and free expression. The stakes could not be more clear, and the stakes could not be more consequential.
And finally, let's finish off with this. There are folks who are going to say that this isn't an example of good governance, and so Democrats should kind of practice what they preach and not do the same thing that they have disavowed for so long. And so, in this particular moment, what do you say to those people?
Well, we can certainly do that. We can have a candlelight vigil. We can hold hands. We can talk about the way the world should be. We could come out with a white paper and talk about, how did all this happen? There could be some best-selling books as we watched our democracy slip away, as we watched the rule of law turn into the rule of dawn, as we watch yet another law firm or another media organization sell their soul, or to see another corporate titan sitting there and give personal, sit there and fealty to the dear leader. We could see more companies get socialized and nationalized. We can watch universities sell out. We can see this democracy slip through our fingers. We can.
All right, folks. So I had to mute it here for just a second because I think we just ran into an audio issue. So I don't know how I can leave the stream to join the Zoom call while also playing this and the audio not be in my ear while I'm trying to have a conversation. So awkwardly, I think I'm going to have to mute this thing until I get back, because right now I have it muted. I can't hear anything in the ear. If I unmute it for the rest of you, even though I can get the camera away and everything, I will be hearing, I think, Governor Newsom in the background. So I'm going to try not to do that, but if so, this thing may be muted for 20 minutes until I return. Okay, so we'll see what I can do. Just hang tight. That might be something that unfortunately happens.
Respect. It's temporary, it's transparent, and it's democratic, meaning we're putting in front of the voters. This is the first maps in the United States that will actually be submitted to the people themselves. The maps will be on the ballot, and it's a temporary response to this emergency, this crisis of the rigging of the midterms. And we need to win this at peril that we'll lose this republic, we'll lose this democracy. It is not an overstatement. This is code red. We all need to wake up to what's going on. And maybe, in final words, maybe I'm saying that from the prism of being a governor of a state where I watched the military asserting themselves to try to take over for domestic policing, where I watched this private army that is the most funded private army of its type anywhere in the world, with ICE out there in masks, intimidating people and their free expression of speech. Maybe it's because I'm sitting here where the UC Regents are meeting tomorrow to discuss a $1.9 billion extortion fine because institutions of higher learning and
But first, a quick note that we are at 98% of our first goal. So we're almost at $100,000. YesOn50live.com. If you've not yet donated, please help support this effort. This is the whole ball game here. Okay, I'm going to introduce now two folks. We have Katie Fang and Congressman Robert Garcia. Katie Fang hosts the Katie Fang YouTube channel powered by the MediasTouch network. She is an attorney, a legal analyst, a former MSNBC anchor. She delivers sharp analysis, in-depth interviews, and must-see commentary on the legal and political stories that are shaping our democracy. She's also a welcome new entrant into the independent media space.
All right, that did not work quite like I expected as far as like being able to play it for you guys. So listen, I'm probably gonna play it, just turn the audio back on. But folks, in all seriousness, please go, if you're able to allow Proposition 50 to succeed, to defend against it from the various legal attacks, to allow it to, them to do all the media and marketing. If you go to donate yes to 50, it's yesOn50live.com. That's how you can donate to get Proposition 50 passed. And I think with that, I'm actually going to leave it here. You guys can watch the rest, and I'll be back. But thank you so much. Here's Katie Fang and Representative Garcia.
Legally rig elections. Now let's fast forward to what we got going on right now, which is if the policies for America are so great by the Republicans, why are they trying to rig the elections and try to redistrict and redo these maps?
Hey everyone, Katie, you're absolutely right. I mean, first, let's be really clear that we've never in the history of this country have seen a Department of Justice be weaponized in this way. And it's not just on redistricting. We're seeing it after going after political enemies. We're seeing it trying to quell dissent. We're seeing essentially the pardons of people that should have no business getting any sort of leniency from the United States, the attack on the courts, the attack on academic institutions, all from the Department of Justice, which we know traditionally has had a separation from the White House. Not in Donald Trump's America. In Donald Trump's America, he can have his own police force, which is now ICE. In Donald Trump's America, he can lie and cheat his way to the White House. In Donald Trump's America, he can attack whoever he wants without consequence. He can hide the Epstein files and ignore survivors. And in this case, this is Donald Trump's plan to essentially rig and steal the 2026 election. Completely planned out by him, Stephen Miller, and that entire team over there at the White House. And so they have been working towards this. It moved fast, but our reaction in California has been in response to the DOJ and Trump's trying to rig and gerrymander Texas. We have had, as you know, a commission in the state that, by the way, I supported. I actively supported our independent commission, but we can no longer have two hands tied behind our back as Republicans steamroll their rigging and gerrymandering of elections, as they try to take our rights, as they try to destroy the Constitution. And so I am committed to this fight. I'm so grateful to the governor for leading this fight in the state. And people got to know this is all about rigging 2026 and setting up 2028.
It's really important for people to know too, Congressman, that you're actually impacted. Your district is actually impacted by these maps that have been proposed for Proposition 50, and you still support it, even though your district has been impacted.
It has. Look, a lot of people don't know this, but I'm actually taking more Republicans than any other Democrat in the state of California in the California map, absorbing Republicans. And when asked, by a delegation to do so, I did it because we have our democracies at stake. And so this is not a moment for us to worry about not having competitive seats or worried about being in Congress for a lifetime. This is about winning the majority to protect people and to save our country. And so look, I still have a fairly blue seat. I'm going to win my reelection, but I went from a super safe, very progressive, deep, over 30 points, 35 points. To a much closer seat, one where I'm having communities across Orange County in much more conservative areas, and more absorbing more Republicans than any other member of our delegation. And I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do, because we can win this seat, and we will. But we need people's support. We need folks to come out, vote for Prop 50 support candidates now that are going to have a little bit tougher seats. But like I told folks that have asked, hey, you're pretty progressive. Is this going to impact the way you take on Trump or the Oversight Committee? And I'll tell you, absolutely not. Looking forward to continuing having the fire and fighting back.
Yeah, and even though Proposition 50 is specific to California, this will impact all of America when it comes to competent representation for constituents in Congress. I want to focus on the work that you're doing in House oversight. And the reason why is obviously part of the biggest part of discourse these days has to do with the Epstein files. If it wasn't for people like you, Congresswoman Summer Lee, and others, there wouldn't be this push for transparency. Talk about why making sure that Democrats have the right type of representation in DC is a sure pathway to make sure that we actually get the transparency that Americans deserve.
This is why I think generational change in our party is really important. And this is why electing and bringing forward new leaders is critical. Katie, as you know, when I was running for the oversight, the leader of the Democrats on oversight, and I'm in my second term in Congress, so I'm still a fairly new person in Congress standards. And we won our election. I'm the first sophomore to win an election to lead a committee in over 100 years in our party. And I'm proud of that because that tells me that our caucus and the party is changing, that they understand that we've got to bring in new voices. We got to expand the tent. We got to let more people in. We can't be this party of subtraction. Like, why aren't we the party of adding more folks, of coalition building? And I think that's what Prop 50 is also about, is we want to go national and take this national. And what's really critical is, as it relates to Epstein, you think about all the fight that we have in front of us. It's all these new generation younger members that are pushing. I mean, you talked about Summer Lee. We partnered in getting that subpoena out. She's in my class. You talk about folks like Jasmine Crockett, who is on fire, I think, bringing and leading this country in so many ways on issues that matter to working people. She's on our committee. She's also in my class. And so I think you're seeing younger, newer Democrats, I hope, modeling what it means to fight. And in this moment for Prop 50, we've got to be aggressive. We've got to back our governor. We've got to be all in, because this could mean essentially us being able to stop the Trump agenda and dramatically slow it down, or giving him free rein to continue to rig more and more states, take away more of our rights, give more of our hard-earned labor to billionaires in this country, and to take away more healthcare. And so we've got to stop this now, and I'm proud that California is leading the way.
There's a false narrative that's being pushed by the Republicans that this is an apples to apples comparison when we look at what was happening in Texas and now what is being proposed with Prop 50 in California. Talk about why that's just a lie. That frankly, one, Texas had a freaking off-ramp that it could have taken. Governor Newsom gave it to Texas, gave it to Trump, gave it to all of them to be able to do before we got to this point in California. And why the opportunities that are being given to the California voters is definitely not what we're seeing happening in Texas.
I mean, what a shock. Republicans are lying about something. I know we're all stunned right now, but look, I think what's happening here in this case is that the difference between what Texas did, which we only are doing in reaction to them, is that they're gerrymandering through their legislature, not the will of the people. Their kind of public process was a complete sham. So many other Texans know this. And for us, look, we support a commission, but what we're going to do is we're going to take it to the voters. We're going to put the map on the ballot. So our map is actually going to be voted by the people, unlike what's happening in Texas. And so when we get Prop 50 across the finish line and we win, it'll be because the voters of California have decided they're not going to allow essentially what's happening in Texas with their governor to somehow dominate the next 2026 election. So I'm proud of what we're doing here in the state. And let me just add, because one of my roommates is an amazing Texan himself and a great congressman. Let me just add that I do appreciate all the Texans that have really fought this every step of the way back home in Texas. And we're here as partners. We really want to support what they're doing as well. They need our support also.
Yeah, I see Brian here. I know we're going to be parting ways, but Congressman, I did want to remind everybody who's tuning in, if you go to www.yeson50live.com, not only can you donate, which you have to because Prop 50 has got to be yes, but you can also volunteer and you can sign up and get more information. I always say knowledge is power, and the more that we can share, we're definitely going to be in better space. I want to say thank you to Congressman Robert Garcia, representing the 42nd Congressional District from the great state of California. Brian, I see you, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. We really appreciate you being a part of this, and thank you for promoting Yes on Live, yeson50live.com. We are making quite a big dent in terms of getting these donations up. We are on our way to $200,000, not even an hour into this thing. If you've not yet donated, please help this effort. This is the whole ball game here. I could not be more excited to promote the next duo. We have Beto O'Rourke and Mark Elias. Beto came within just 2 points of unseating Ted Cruz in 2018. He is a huge inspiration for me. Every time Beto speaks, it is difficult not to just sit there and be enthralled and listen. He is in large part the best of the Democratic Party. And also I should note that race that he ran in 2018 also resulted in a raft of Democrats sweeping into office thanks to his efforts, including a record 19 black female judges. So a huge accomplishment by Beto. Mark Elias founded Democracy Docket, which is a website focused on voting rights and election litigation in the U.S. If there is a hero for democracy, if there is a fighter for democracy, it's Mark. I speak for everybody watching in thanking you, Mark, for the work that you do on the front lines in both the courts and in the media. So I'll leave it both to you to take it from here.
Hey, Brian, thank you for having us and for leading this effort in this conversation here tonight, and for everyone who's part of it, getting to listen to the previous conversation. I'm pretty fired up, and I love the dots that the congressman was connecting between what has happened in my home state of Texas and what you all are doing right now in California. We're fighting fire with fire. You know, we didn't ask for this fight, but the fight has come to us, and we're standing up and we're stepping up and we're fighting. And how important that we do this at a time that so many have chosen to bend the knee and to submit to Donald Trump. I mean, all the conventional centers of power, the Ivy League universities, the big law firms, with some exceptions, the media companies, Paramount and CBS, the tech titans, the billionaire masters of algorithm, all submitting, all who have the power actually to resist and to fight and potentially to overcome this slide into authoritarianism. And yet here you have some brave people here in Texas, the Democratic state legislators who broke quorum to deny the Republican counterparts the numbers needed, initially at least, to redraw the maps, but certainly to draw the conversation to Texas, to our democracy, and the need to fight. And then thanks to everyone in California, most importantly, Governor Newsom, for leading that fight and making sure through a very democratic process, literally this is going to be brought to the voters in Proposition 50, redrawing these districts so that we can pick up 5 additional congressional seats to replace those stolen likely here in the state of Texas. And lastly, and most importantly, to win political power, a majority in the House of Representatives. If we win that, there will be a check on Trump's lawlessness, accountability for his corruption and crimes, and the very real possibility of free and fair elections in 2028. If we fail, the consolidation of authoritarian power in Trump's hands, I believe, after 2026, will be unstoppable. More masked, plainclothes federal agents sweeping our fellow Americans up off the streets, more of his political opponents targeted for vengeance and retribution. And we know the Republican majority House of Representatives will likely try to roll out the royal red carpet for a 3rd Trump term. Those are the stakes. That's why it's so incredibly important that we fight. And for everyone who's listening and watching right now, please donate, pitch in, support this effort. And now I'm going to turn it over to my hero, Mark Elias, who is doing great work across the country, including here in Texas, making sure that we fight with everything that we've got. Mark, thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Beto, and thank you, Brian Tyler Cohen. You know, Beto is going to be on my podcast tomorrow morning, so everyone needs to check that out, and because he is a true inspiration. The thing about Beto that everyone needs to know is that there are a whole lot of people who are talking about this fight. Beto put himself between the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, who is an absolute raving lunatic, and and the legislators. When Ken Paxton was threatening everybody, you better not show support. You better not say anything positive about these state legislators. By the way, sounds an awful lot like a president we have right now and a White House right now. Beto said, I'll be damned if I'm gonna bow down or step back. And he stepped forward and was as critical to the success that we saw in Texas. And if we wind up winning this lawsuit, we will all owe Beto O'Rourke a huge round of thank yous. And Brian, there's not enough I can say in the world about everything you have done for democracy, both in California and around the country. I see Senator Padilla coming up, another one of my heroes, Robert Garcia, Congressman. Great job. But here's the thing I need to tell everybody. Donald Trump is trying to rig the 2026 election because he is afraid that he is going to lose control of Congress. And there is no easier way. There is no more direct line from point A to point B in his effort than to set off a series of dominoes to redraw in the middle of the district, middle of the census decade, the maps to do that. He started in Texas and grabbed 5 seats. He has already moved to Missouri and grabbed 1 seat. He is going to move to Indiana. He's going to move to Florida, Ohio. The list goes on and on. And what we are watching in California is a Democratic Party, is an effort, a grassroots movement to not let this happen on our watch. You know, we can all agree that in a perfect world, we will have nonpartisan redistricting commissions. We can all agree that in a perfect world that we will not have mid-cycle redistricting. But the folks behind this in California, starting with the governor on down, they said, we are not going to sacrifice our democracy for a nonpartisan map. We are not going to let the US Constitution and the state law become a suicide pact for democracy. This is an all hands on deck. If this ballot initiative passes, then we have a chance. We have a chance to show Republicans that they will not get away with these kinds of tactics and to enact a price on the Republicans in Congress, the people who have Mike Johnson's here, the people who have Donald can get an appointment with the White House, to convince them that they need to lobby against these efforts in the future. If this fails, then it is just going to provide more incentive for Republicans to fight harder. So the thing I need everybody to do right now is go to yes50live.com. Okay, I'll take a second. I got all the time in the world. Yes on 50live.com. And I need you to go and I need to give what you can give. If it's $1, give $1. If it's $10, give $10. If it's $1,000, by God, give them $1,000 and then give them a tip on top of it. All right. We all need to do the thing we can do. And right now, the easiest thing for you to do is to go to that website and to donate so that the hard work that all of these people are doing in California and people like Beto O'Rourke, who is literally putting himself on the line, like not just appearing on your live streams, but putting himself in jeopardy, that they will have a chance along with the rest of us to fight for democracy. So Beto, I just want to thank you on behalf of everybody who is watching this and everyone who will watch it in the future. History will record you as one of the great heroes. When democracy was at stake, you stood up. And so I want to thank you. I want to thank Brian and everybody else.
Super kind of you to say that, and listen right back at you. Brian and I had this conversation a couple of months ago, and it's one of the reasons I also love Brian Tyler Cohen so much. He's one of the few people out there, at least at the beginning of this, who understood the urgency of the moment. I think for far too long, present company excluded, Democrats cared far more about being right than they cared about being in power. While at the same time, Trump only cared about being in power. He didn't care what was right, what was legal, what was moral, what was ethical. It was all about power. And thanks to Brian Tyler Cohen, who's really been waking people up across this country. Thanks to you, Mark, for what you've been doing in courtrooms across the United States of America. I think our fellow citizens are waking up. And it's not just Democrats, by the way. As you know, it is independents, it is Republicans, it's people who believe in our democracy, in self-government, and a government of, by, and for the people, that 249 years into this experiment, we are on the verge of losing unless we stand up and fight with everything that we've got right now. There are about 14 months left to us. And again, if we fail in this proposition, then we lose the republic. If we win, we're in for another round or two for as long as we can keep fighting to win this thing back. And for everyone out there who is so sick and tired of Democrats not fighting with everything that they've got. As Mark just said, you finally have a governor here in California. You finally have a movement in California. You finally have a movement that's waking up the rest of this country that is fighting with everything that they've got. And it is so goddamn exciting because we have waited so long to see this happen within our party. Do not allow this moment to pass without a fight. And if you're wondering what your part in that fight is right now, it is donating, as Mark said, everything that you can right now. I will be joining you. Amy and I are going to be making a donation tonight. I bet Mark has already made a donation.
Absolutely.
Brian's probably
I'm
making
on the website.
Yeah. So let's get it done. I mean, do not allow this moment to pass without a fight. That's why we're here.
Yeah. And let me just say in 20 seconds here, Brian, I want to also echo what Beto said. You know, Brian Tyler Cohen doesn't have to be doing this. Brian doesn't have to do a lot of stuff that he does to stand up and fight for democracy. And for all of the shit that gets thrown here and there, we owe him a big debt of gratitude. There would not be a Mark Elias on YouTube without Brian Tyler Cohen. Okay. Like the Democracy Watch series that he approached me on has been vitally important in spreading the word, and he has done enormously important work. So thank you, Brian.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you both so much. And, you know, it's an honor to be talking to both of you. These are the biggest and best fighters that we have on the left here. So couldn't be more grateful for your voices here. One more reminder for everybody watching. It is so important right now, just to give a lay of the land, it is so important right now to donate if you can. There will be an unlimited amount of money coming into the state of California from every corner of the United States. Every Republican is going to make sure that they can neutralize what happens in California, because if they can take California's redraw off the map, so to speak, then they don't have to worry about anything. They've got this thing in the bag. California is how we neutralize what's happening in Texas and Missouri and Indiana. And we know that these things are happening on the right because we've seen it happen. Donald Trump says jump, these governors say how high. We've seen it happen in Texas. We already saw it happen in Missouri. It's going to happen in Ohio and Indiana and Florida as well. So this is our way to fight back. Again, an unlimited sum of money is going to come into the state from every corner of the country to bolster the Republicans' position. We rely on small dollar donors. We rely on everybody watching right now to be able to get the word out to all of those Californians who aren't watching this live stream right now. So a small step that everybody can take is to go to yeson50live.com and donate what you can. Okay. It is my honor now to be able to introduce two more folks. We have Ben Meiselas, who co-founded the MediasTouch Network, which is the top viewed political YouTube channel and the most listened to podcast each month of this year. Huge congratulations to Ben and your brothers for what you've built in MediasTouch. I could not be more proud to see that the left is fighting back, and you guys are a huge, huge, huge part of that. So thank you for the work you're doing. And congratulations on all of the well-deserved accolades that you guys have gotten. And I'm also going to call in Governor Newsom now, who, of course, is the center of all of this. We have been, begging and pleading for Democrats who are willing to match their words and their rhetoric with action, and nobody has better exemplified that than the governor. So I'll let you both take it from here.
Governor Newsom, it's great to see you, the man of the hour right now. When your name is on Donald Trump's social media, it seems, on an almost hourly basis, whether it's Donald Trump claiming that he saved Los Angeles by turning on a magical faucet somewhere in the imaginary border between California and Canada, whether it's Donald Trump saying that he saved Los Angeles again a few months back, whatever he was making up about you today. It seems that you standing up to him is having a certain type of reaction, doesn't it?
Oh, I appreciate that. It's it's a point of pride. I mean, there was almost 48 hours where I felt he'd forgotten about me, but you're right. No, he tried to hit me on his way over to the UK. And it's a reminder of what we're up against: mis and disinformation, just complete bullshit. Excuse my language. That comes from Donald Trump. And that's why it's important that we're not only winning the war in the spirit of what Beto and Mark just brought to this conversation on the ground, in the spirit of what Brian talked about in terms of this grassroots people power effort to push back against the well-heeled. But it's absolutely critical that we win the messaging war as well, that we organize in a much more, much more, intense way to communicate over and over and over again our message across the spectrum, which is just foundational in all these efforts.
Look, the federal government once again is heading towards another shutdown potentially, but Donald Trump has ordered MAGA Mike Johnson and Republicans do not even have conversations with Democrats. He's repeatedly referred to Democrats as the enemy, radical, don't deal with them, don't even talk to them. You've been in politics for a little bit. That's not the way it always was, but it is what Donald Trump has turned the body politic into today, kind of this zero-sum game, if you will. And we see it play out over and over again. And, you know, it seems as the American people are letting their voices be heard right now, he's getting more and more nervous, hence trying to rig these midterms.
No, look, I mean, I think what you've underscored is the fundamental point here. Trump is weakness. He's weakness masquerading as strength. He's flailing. The economy is cooling. Inflation's starting to rise again. Consumer confidence is down. Credit card debt is going up. The tariffs have terrified our allies, and taxes are being felt on the American people and middle-class families. His only legislative success, the big, beautiful bill, is anything but. It's a big, beautiful betrayal. And we're seeing all of these authoritarian tendencies as a response to that weakness. And the more you see caps in his Truth Social and his tweets, the more that just underscores the fact that he's flailing. That's why he's trying to rig this election. That's why we're having this conversation. That's what Prop 50 is all about. It's pushing back in a meaningful and substantive way. But one cannot underestimate the lengths to which he will go to not just rig the midterms, but the impacts if he's successful well beyond that. And I really appreciated Beto and Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren, others really highlighting that, Congressman Garcia, that this is not just about 2025, the impacts on 2026 and 2028 and beyond. The consequences of this initiative to set the tone and tenor into 2026 to de facto end the Trump presidency, next year's midterms, whereas Tommy said in the outset, Donald Trump will no longer be able to sign any bill because we'll finally have a check on his power.
You know, living in California is something that I have a great deal of pride about. We are the fourth largest economy in the world. If California was a country, we are a giver state. We give $80 billion plus more to the federal government than we take. By contrast, Texas takes about $75 billion more than it gives. You go through every stat in entrepreneurship, companies. California is leading the way. Is that, I mean, but it's constantly under attack by Trump and lots of people in red states who, let's face it, I know how Donald Trump likes to falsely say that the United States subsidizes Canada, which is not accurate and completely false. But let's face it, a lot of these red states are failing. And but for California kind of subsidizing the country, yet they then come and attack us here in California. I don't like that, Gov.
I'm with you, man. It's the California derangement syndrome. And with respect to our friend Beto O'Rourke, you're exactly right. $71.1 billion taker state. California, $83.1 billion donor state, meaning we provide $83+ billion more in revenue to the federal government than we receive back. And that is the case, vast majority of blue states. But we also have to state the facts. I live in California, you live here, size of 21 state populations combined, the fourth largest economy from a GDP in the world, more scientists, engineers, more researchers, more Nobel laureates than any state in the nation. The system of education that's a conveyor belt for talent, the UC, CSUs, our community college system, pushing out the boundaries of discovery, more venture capital, and we dominate in the next big global economy, 32 of the top 50 AI companies all here in the state of California. So our state of mind is about not just imagination, but it's innovation. It's dreaming and doing. And it's not lost on me, and it shouldn't be lost on anybody, that part of our secret sauce is the fact that we are able to get the best and the brightest from around the globe. First round draft choices. We're a majority minority state. That our best doesn't tolerate that diversity. We celebrate that diversity. All of that's on the line in terms of the assaults of Trump and Trumpism and going after DEI, ESG, CRT, anything with 3 letters, this guy seems to be assaulting. And so what Proposition 50 represents is an opportunity to check his power. It's about checks and balances. It's about the rule of law. It's about co-equal branches of government. And that's why I'm so grateful to you and so many others that are tuning in so that we can tune up an understanding of what's at stake with this initiative.
Let's talk about this event today before we go. National Voter Registration Day, so it has an added layer of significance. The website is yeson50live.com. Everybody go there. I'm going to make a donation after this at yeson50live.com. But you bringing together all of these people here in new media, bringing members of Congress and senators and leaders together, rallying together to support our democracy and to support this existential threat. How big of a deal is this event today, Governor?
I think it's huge because you guys have done one thing that I think we all need. I imagine you might need, and that's some optimism, some hope. I think that we show up for each other. We're showing up for a cause greater than ourselves. And as Beto was saying, 249 years of these enduring principles and values, the best of Roman Republic and Greek democracy, about to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our founding fathers. It's all on the line. It's all at stake. And I think for me to see everybody show up like this, that's incredible. It gives me a sense of optimism and hopefulness. And what I think it also represents from a very organized perspective is that we're not just engaging in platform thinking, we're also engaged in platform doing, that we're actually manifesting something here. We have something to be for. We have work to do. We have agency. And what I think this whole engagement tonight represents is the power of the people. In a democracy, Brandeis said it best, the most important office is office of citizen. Active, not inert citizenship. And it's people making contributions, $3, $5, $10, making contributions by going out there and volunteering that will be the story that will define not just the success of Prop 50, but the story that I think will define this moment in the history books as we move into the 250th anniversary of the
Governor, thank you for what you're doing. Great conversation. I echo what everyone else said about you, Brian Tyler Cohen. You gave me that very nice intro, but you're the OG in YouTube, and you've paved the way for a lot of people like us. And thank you for putting this event together, Brian. Governor, thanks for fighting for us. You give us all hope to see the governor, the largest state in the United States, pushing back, fighting for democracy. Thanks for everything you're doing, Governor.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you both. And look, this is, again, to echo what Ben and the governor were saying, this is what it looks like when you actually put words behind action. For so long, Democrats have been begging for not just strongly worded letters, but for actual real action, for actual push to what we're saying. And that's what we're seeing right here in California. But that's just half the battle. This thing is going to be a referendum on the ballot, but California is a huge state, and it's going to require getting the word out to so many people. And Republicans are already doing it. The day that this thing was announced, we had Republican operatives sending mailers out to every single address in the state. I know that if you live in California, you've seen them. You've gotten those mailers in your mailbox saying to vote no. We have to push back. This is our way to protect not just the future of the Democratic Party, but the future of democracy itself. And that relies on being able to reach all of those people who aren't paying attention to politics on a daily basis, which, to be honest, sounds good for everybody's mental health. But the reality is that it's going to take a lot of push from all of us who are paying attention to make sure that people know what's going on. So we are getting very close to our $200,000 mark, which is a huge milestone. But please, if you haven't yet donated, go to yeson50live.com. Okay, I'm so excited to be able to introduce our two next guests. We have Joe Carducci and Senator Alex Padilla. I'm sure you've heard JoJo from Jers. She's worked so hard to make herself a household name. I'm also very proud to be from the same home state as her, the state of New Jersey, where it should be known that we have the best pizza in the country. And Senator Padilla, U.S. Senator from right here in my new home state of California. This is the senator who made a name for himself this year by putting his body on the line when he was arrested by the Trump administration for daring speak out. And that's exactly the kind of forward-leaning posture that we want to see from our elected officials. So I'll let you guys take it from here.
Well, first of all, thank you, Brian. I did not know that you were from the Garden State, the greatest state in the country. No offense. I'm just kidding. I'm here from New Jersey participating in this event for Prop 50 in California because I understand that the stakes of this moment are much greater than the best state on the planet, which is, of course, New Jersey. Again, no offense. But Senator Padilla, it is wonderful to see you again under slightly better circumstances than the last time we spoke.
Yes,
But I
pleasure.
just wanted, yeah, I'm happy to see your face. I feel like we bonded a little bit in a unique way through some tragedy that happened last week. But I wanted to just start with something that is important to me, a thread that ties us together, which is that we are the children of immigrants. And the governor just said, in this country, we celebrate diversity. Your parents, my dad, they believed in the American dream. They worked toward that end. They participated in achieving that. Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans, they don't appreciate that diversity. They, on the other hand, quite the contrary. They're trying to attack it. And so I want to start there, if you might, with what's at stake right now for the American dream for people like your parents, people like my dad.
Sure. No, Jojo, great to be back with you. And I mean, I think a couple of things. Why does Donald Trump have it in for California so badly? It's because California is like the opposite of his vision. California is not the most populous state in the nation, the most diverse state in the nation, home to more immigrants than any state in the nation. And as you've been hearing, California has grown to become the fourth largest economy in the world. And that's not a coincidence. That doesn't happen despite the immigrant population. It's because of the immigrant population, the contributions of so many immigrants as workers, of course, but also as consumers and as entrepreneurs. But because of, and there's a lot to say about Donald Trump here, but California is the embodiment of what the future of the country is, increasingly diverse, and we should be increasingly inclusive if we want to embrace the economic and cultural impact of it. But what does Donald Trump do? He attacks California. This mass deportation agenda that he has started his administration with is centered not just in California, but my hometown of Los Angeles. So imagine how offended I feel as a proud son of immigrants when, look, I knew my dad who worked for 40 years as a short order cook. My mom worked for 40 years cleaning houses so that my brother and my sister and I can get a good education. That was it, and achieve the American dream. And that's the same story of millions of immigrants throughout California and throughout the country. And Trump and Republicans just can't handle it. So instead of trying to build on that success and that strength, they try to demonize it and attack it. So it's one of the many arguments why we need to support Proposition 50, because Prop 50 has been the most powerful tool presented to us to rein in this out of control administration. They want to steal next November's election by rigging it before it even starts. But California is going to step up and push back by approving Prop 50 this November.
I appreciate the fight coming from California very, very much. This is obviously the moment to be meeting, and the governor and all of your leadership are meeting this moment extraordinarily. And so I want to speak to your point about what Republicans are doing and ask you, why are they trying to cheat ahead of the midterms in 2026? I mean, what do they know?
Look, my point of view, both as a Californian and as a member of the Senate here, to me, it's pretty obvious. Under normal circumstances, a party in power would be proud of their legislative accomplishments, and they'd run on their record in the midterms to try to stay in power. But that's not what's happening here. They know how not just unpopular, but damaging their record has been. Right? This destruction of confidence in the judiciary, the federal government as we know it, their cuts to healthcare, their cuts to nutrition assistance programs, their tax breaks for billionaires, on and on and on. The only hope they have to hold on to power next year is to rig the election before it even starts. So before I even get to redistricting, whether it's legislation they've introduced or executive orders to make it harder for eligible Americans to register to vote, to stay registered to vote, or to actually cast your ballot, that's just part of it. the Department of Justice, and I'm a member of the judiciary, I've seen it up close and personal. They're politicizing the Department of Justice now, just like they did in the first Trump term, trying to obtain all the personal information of voters in select states to try to tee up the purging of voter rolls. And on top of that, this redistricting push. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I first saw the news report of Trump calling Governor Abbott in Texas saying, five more Republican seats, it sounded a lot like when Donald Trump called the Secretary of State in Georgia in 2020, when he said, find me 11,000 more votes. They'll do anything to cling to power. That's what this is. And so as I try to sum it up to folks when I'm walking around, if you care about reining in this administration that has overreached, violated due process and the Constitution with their mass deportation agenda, if you care about the rising cost of groceries and housing and healthcare and energy and so much more, and you want to do something about it, you got to support Prop 50. And if you care about the rule of law and defending the principles of our Constitution, you have to support Prop 50. It's the biggest check. It's the strongest guardrails against this out of control administration.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned redistricting, and obviously this is what Prop 50 is about. But Republicans will say, "Oh, this is the Democrats cheating, et cetera," right? This is not at all what the Democrats wanted. This was triggered by what they did in Texas. The Democrats have been the ones advocating for fair maps. Can you talk to that? And what would you say to a Republican who says, "Oh no, this is the Democrats cheating," or people in the state of California who think, "I can't vote yes on this because this isn't fair"?
Yeah, so be absolutely crystal clear on this. The only reason we are moving on Proposition 50 is in response to the abuse of power in Texas. Again, at the behest of Donald Trump. And by the way, whether California would have responded to this or not, Republicans were going to stop in Texas. They saw 5 potential seats to pick up in Texas, but as we've seen in recent days and weeks, they're also looking to redistrict and are redistricting in Missouri and in Indiana and in Ohio. They're going to stop nowhere in their desperate efforts to cling to power. What California did is start at the very beginning. They're going into Texas to try to rig the system. As much as we support independent redistricting and all that stuff, the stakes are simply too high. The threat of this administration and its impact, the devastating impact on working families is too high. We can't sit idly by and just watch it happen. We have to respond. We have to fight back. And so, yes, it took a lot, not just for the California legislature, but Governor Newsom and the California congressional delegation to support this new map and take it to the voters for the voters to decide whether we push back on Trump with Proposition 50. The early polls are good, but as we've said earlier, there's a lot of money that doesn't like what's happening, and there's going to be no less than $150 million, maybe $200 million against Proposition 50, including Speaker Mike Johnson's PAC money coming into California to try to defeat Proposition 50. That's what we're up against. So let me take this opportunity for anybody tuning in. However you can support, if you can't support, we need your support because we're up against a lot of big money who knows that California's move here is the big check against the Trump agenda. So we need your help, volunteerism and activism on the ground, a financial contribution if you can.
Awesome. We'll leave it there. Thank you both for joining. Very much appreciated. I should also note that we are coming up fast on our second milestone of $200,000. So if you have not yet donated, please head over to yeson50live.com. I also want to take this opportunity to throw right up here on this screen, if I can, a map of what the current donations look like thus far from this whole effort. We've been going for just over an hour right now. So do we have the ability to throw the map on the screen? Let's see if we do. If not, it's all good. We can get to it at the next break. But I do want to note, here we go. I think we do have the map on the screen right here. Let's see if we can see it. Yep, looks good. So that is a map of the donations thus far. I want to note that we have donations from all 50 states across the entire country. We have people that have opted to help our effort here in California across the entire country. And that's especially important because it goes to show the stakes, not just for the state that I'm in right now, the state of California, where we do have an effort to push back on this blatant power grab by Republicans, but it goes to show that the rest of the country is waking up to what's happening. And they all recognize the extent to which California is so necessary to neutralize what the Republicans are doing in Texas and Missouri and Indiana and Ohio and Florida. So this is how we fight back. And look, there are a million reasons to have said no. It's difficult, it's too soon. Again, the list goes on and on, but the reality is that we had people here in California between Gavin Newsom and the California congressional delegation and the state legislature who recognized the urgency of this moment, decided to fight fire with fire and actually move this effort forward. But that's only half the battle. It's going to take all of us to actually pitch in and make sure that this thing passes on November 4th. And the way that we get to all of those people across this state who aren't paying attention right now is to make sure that we can raise some money, grassroots funds, and get in front of them on TV, on their computers, in their mailboxes, whatever it may be. So even if you can only donate a few bucks, every little bit helps. YesOn50live.com. Okay, very excited right now to be introducing our two next speakers. We have Harry Sisson, who is one of the most recognizable faces of the next generation of progressive content creators. He is doing the hard work, getting out there every single day on TikTok and vertical platforms and on YouTube, reaching Americans where they're consuming their news. It is so important, so grateful for his voice. And we also have Representative Ray Reid, who serves Missouri's 83rd House District, representing communities across the St. Louis region. He was one of the 3 Missouri Democrats to stage a sit-in protesting the state's new maps for several days and nights. So I just want to say on behalf of me and everybody watching, thank you for the sacrifice that you have made. Looking forward to your guys' conversation here.
Thank you.
Well, Brian, that was such a kind introduction. I will say I take tremendous issue with the assertion that New Jersey has the best pizza, especially when there's this fantastic city across the river called Manhattan. Dollar pizza on every corner, you can't go wrong. But look, the pizza debate can lie. We are here for a very important reason, which is Donald Trump has a tendency to cheat. When he is backed into a corner and a position he put himself in, he will do whatever it takes to cheat. As Senator Alex Padilla correctly said, in 2020, when he lost the election pretty soundly, he called up the Republicans in Georgia and said, find me 11,000 votes. Fast forward to 2025, Donald Trump is calling up Republican states across the country saying, find me a couple of seats. Texas, find me some seats. Help me out. Trump knows his agenda is wildly unpopular. His big, ugly bill is wildly unpopular. He knows it cannot stand on the merits, and so he's trying to cheat the game. And the really concerning thing about all of this is that Donald Trump is not just stopping at Texas. He's looking at Republican states across the country, and Representative Reid is in one of those states, Missouri, where Republicans right now are actively discussing redistricting. And that's why it's so important to support Gavin Newsom's effort in California and Proposition 50. And Representative Reid, I just got to know, what's it like in Missouri with the threat of redistricting? How are you responding? How are your constituents responding to this threat?
Yeah, we are kind of fired up and ready to go. A few years ago in 2018, Republicans did a similar thing. They pushed through their terrible right to work, or so-called right to work mandate across the state of Missouri, and the citizens responded. We got organized, we got labor involved, and we put forth a ballot initiative to reverse what they did. And we're doing that same thing here again with these bullshit bills bullshit maps that they put together. We have now until December 11th to gather 107 signatures for a citizens referendum on their map. And you better believe we are working our butts off right now with our coalition partners to gather more than all the signatures we need to make sure that we stop this map in its tracks. And like California, let the citizens decide what they want their maps to look like.
And look, that is so fantastic to hear. I think I speak for everybody when I say we greatly appreciate the work you're doing. I'm curious, you're a young guy. What's your message, and a young guy in a Republican state, I might add, what's your message to all these different Democratic governors out there who are not pursuing redistricting and responding to Texas in the same way that Governor Gavin Newsom is doing in California?
Yeah, the time to fight back is right now. We are so grateful for leaders like Governor Gavin Newsom in California, along with the entire California legislature, Speaker Rivas and their entire team there. We're stepping up to the plate when the time's needed. I know our friends to the east of Missouri and Illinois are working on some things. In New York, they're talking about what they can do. The time right now, the time to fight back is right now. And please, 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 whether you're an elected official or just someone who cares deeply about this issue, make sure you are registered to vote. Find your space, find where you can be of use to this cause, and get organized. Grab a clipboard, grab some friends, and hit the streets. It's time right now to fight back.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this map that Brian Tyler Cohen just showed on the screen. It shows donations coming in from almost all 50 states, if not 50 states. It's incredibly impressive that people coast to coast are seeing the significance of this moment. What do you think that speaks to? That people in liberal states, Republican states across the country are contributing to this cause and getting involved?
I think it shows that, although Democrats didn't pick this fight, we're also not afraid of it, and we're all ready to pitch in wherever we can to be a part of this fight. When we were on the House floor, we had folks from all across the country giving us calls, from Kamala Harris to Governor Newsom's team to Chris Coons. Just the Democrats all across the country just kind of wrapping their arms around us and saying, we got your back. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now in California. That's why we're on this call. It's because we've got Californians back, and we're going to make sure that the people have the last say on this one.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you're an elected representative. You've put in the hard work to get there. And I think you also have a tremendous understanding of what people are saying. So what are you hearing from your constituents right now? Are they calling your office? Are they calling friends of yours in states around the country? Like, what's the message that you're hearing most from folks that you represent and just broadly?
More than anything, we're seeing people kind of wake up, even in a red state like Missouri. Republicans, I think, know that they've gone too far. Although they are, let me be clear, Republicans in Missouri and around the country and states like Texas are cowards for bending the knee to Donald Trump instead of upholding the duties of their offices. But we're seeing folks get fired up, get ready to go, mobilizing, putting their names on the ballot, organizing with friends, finding out how they can help with our citizens referendum. We're really seeing something that we haven't seen since, from my experience, 2008, which I'm really, really excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I'm in a different position than you are. I make content online every day, and my comment sections, my DMs, everything for the past couple of months since Texas and Donald Trump started their cheating effort has been filled with, what can we do? How can we get involved? How can we get our representatives to listen to us? And I think you're exactly right that there's this national awakening happening right now. And I'm also really happy to report that I'm even hearing this from Republicans. People in my personal life and online are saying, hey, this ain't right. What Donald Trump is trying to do with mid-decade redistricting is unprecedented and a blatant power grab. And that is exactly why this is so important. And I do want to plug the website. You've heard it many times tonight. It's yeson50live.com. The amazing thing about this website is you can contribute to this effort to help Gavin Newsom fight back, but you can also register to vote. This effort, this Prop 50 does not pass unless people get out there to vote and make their voices heard. So please go to that website. Please donate, register to vote, do everything that you can. And I know, Representative Reed, you know the significance of registering to vote and actually making their voices heard. So please, from all of us who have spoken tonight, go do that. And let's get this job done. I think we're close, and the amount of money raised is just fantastic.
That's right. That's right. It's so important because this really is, the fight of our lifetimes. Everyone's talking about 2028. We don't get to 2028 if we don't deal with 2026 first. So please make sure you're registered to vote. Talk to 10 friends. Make sure they're registered to vote. Because I promise, when you can increase the voter turnout by 20 to 50 votes, precinct by precinct by precinct, that makes all the difference in the election. So please, please, please make sure you're registered to vote. And when you go donate, give $1 more, give $2 more, whatever you can, because I promise that makes all the difference too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Turnout is everything. Turnout is everything.
Thank you guys both. Representative Reed, Harry, thank you both so much for helping us here tonight. I should note that we have passed, let's see, we're coming up on $250,000 in about an hour of doing this. So thank you all to the folks who have donated. If you've not yet donated, please help this effort. Even a few bucks goes a long way. Okay, very excited to introduce our next duo here. We have David Pakman, who's one of the OGs on YouTube. He was one of the very first people who I watched when I started tuning into politics. He paved the way for people like me to come onto YouTube and start making social media content. And my goal has been to do exactly what I've seen David do, which is to pay it forward and make way for the next generation to do the same. So very excited to have you here, David. And I think we have Congressman Eric Swalwell as well. Is that correct? There he is. So he represents California's 14th congressional district. He has been one of the most vocal members of Congress that we have, not just for fighting back against Republican overreach, but especially when it comes to really important issues like gun violence, where we've seen a conspicuous lack of leadership. So thank you, Congressman, for taking on these issues, especially these important issues where other folks are failing to step up. Looking forward to watching you guys' conversation.
Yeah, my pleasure. And hey, man, I'm so proud of you and what you've built, Brian. We've needed to be in the space that you're in for a long time, and it's making a difference and it's breaking through.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. Congressman, great to see you. I'll just say a few things, and then I really want to hear from you. You know, I think a lot of us are here because we just realize instinctively that something is very, very wrong here. We see this unprecedented power grab happening from Republicans, upending centuries of tradition by using force. We're seeing what's happening in Texas. As far as the creator space, I don't remember any time in all the years I've been doing this where independent media has had an environment that is so hostile from the people in power and from the government. They're doing this with regard to what's happening in Texas because they realize, and Trump realizes, if Democrats take the House in 2026, that's it for Trump's agenda. I mean, he instantly is a lamer duck than he already is today. And so if these Republican maps can really control that election, they could end up keeping control of the House, even if colloquially they lose the midterms. And so it's not a coincidence that they've made it clear they're willing to burn down the system if it's what it takes to stay in power. And so I know that's, Congressman, why we on the creator side do this every single day. Right. We know that you and other people are also fighting from inside Washington, D.C. Right. I think the good news is we have here something tangible and tractable, which folks in my audience have been asking for a long time. Is there something we can get involved in? Is there something I can volunteer, donate to today? And I want to hear from you how you see this and how your colleagues see this as an opportunity to not wait certainly until 2028, but also not to wait to have 2026 stolen either.
So I'm going to start where I'm going to end. And I see that the great Martin Sheen is going to join us a little bit later. And I think as a storyteller and an artist, he would agree that that's how you should always tell a story. And the Republicans, they see it the same way. So let's work backward a little bit. Republicans know that on November 4, 2026, when we go to the ballot boxes and marshal all of the support across the country and we win the midterms, they know that it's over, that this era of having masked agents pull our friends and neighbors off the streets and send them to faraway places, it's over, that this era of taking away healthcare from people who need it the most, it's over. This era of doing nothing about rising grocery prices is over. And the tariffs that the president has put so idiotically on allies of ours who produce so many goods that we need, that it's over. So they know that if Democrats are in the majority, all of that chaos stops, all of that cruelty stops, because a couple of things happen. We have the power of the purse, so we decide, how to fund the government. We have the oversight ability to look at everything that they've done. So Elon Musk and Doge and the data theft that took place and the Social Security numbers that were breached, we look at all of that. And so they know that it's over in a sense. And most importantly, we have the subpoena power. And so they will have to immediately shift from, doing and carrying out this cruel agenda of Donald Trump to thinking about 2028. And one last piece of this, David, I want to point out, our best chance at making sure that there are free and fair elections in 2028, in the next presidential election, is to win the midterms in 26, because it gives us the ability to have that oversight and make sure that they're not doing everything possible to steal the election.
Well, this is where people in the audience come in. Of course, check out yeson50live.com. And if it's a few dollars or a little more than a few dollars, everything is helping to get to this incredible goal that we're pushing for right now. You can also find out how to volunteer for this effort at yeson50live.com. And in addition to that, it is National Voter Registration Day. And Congressman, it seems like every election cycle we have this conversation. If we could just get 3% more turnout from 18 to 29-year-olds, it's over. And sometimes there's a little more turnout, sometimes there's a little less turnout. But one of the incredible opportunities in the United States is that because voter turnout is habitually so low in midterm elections and in off-year elections, that movement that can inspire just a few percentage more points of turnout has an outsized opportunity to really win big. And so the voter registration part of this, I think, is huge.
It's so important, David, because it also gives us a jump on the midterms, right? And so it's exercising our democratic muscles, so to speak. It's giving agency to people who have never participated before. And it's not a dry run because there are real stakes for what happens, this upcoming special election. But it essentially, it's a playoff game before the Super Bowl next year. I also just want to, put in perspective what it means to win, aside from, getting the 5 seats and countering what Texas is doing. I think in politics, just like sports, momentum begets momentum. So think about this. We go to the ballot box on November 4 to pass Prop 50 in California, and we win. And Mikey Sherrill wins the governor's race in New Jersey. And Abigail Spanberger wins the governor's race in Virginia. And that's a flip for us going from red to blue. And the 2 Democratic judges on the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court win. Those are 4 big races across the country. If we sweep those 4 and we can win each of those, that's momentum, baby. That's going into the midterms with wind at our backs. It's confidence that we need, a boost that's so needed after the demoralizing election in 2024. And also on the other side, what this will mean on November 4 is vulnerable Republicans in the House and the Senate will think twice about whether they even want to run for re-election. So it could put even more seats in play. It would demoralize their donor base, it would demoralize their voters, and it would create a sense of inevitability. Not that we can take it for granted, we're still going to have to work for it, but psychologically beating them down and making them question whether they can even hold the midterms, that's what winning on November 4 is all about.
Well, the opposition knows what's at stake. They are able to pour nearly unlimited money into trying to defeat Prop 50. They know if they can get away with Texas but stop California, it puts them in a position to take that momentum that you're talking about. So make sure to check out yeson50live.com. You can learn about volunteering. You can donate. You can learn about voter registration. Congressman, great to see you. Great to talk to you. And Brian, thank you so much for organizing.
I stand between you guys and Martin Sheen, and I'm not going to get in the way of that because I'm so grateful that he and also his co-star Dule Hill is going to be are going to be on next. So thank you to both of them for engaging in this battle.
Awesome. David, Congressman, appreciate you being a part of this. And with no further ado, I know that a lot of folks are very excited. So I'm going to introduce our next guest here. We've got Tim Fullerton. Tim helped start this show, I should note first and foremost. So a big shout out to Tim. He also had a practice session, we can say, in launching White Dudes for Harris, helped that gain prominence, and he served many roles in the Obama administration. And importantly, he started the Find Out podcast, which I'm a huge fan of, and we need more folks in independent media, so I'm grateful that Tim and his co-hosts have jumped into this space. And now we've got members of the West Wing cast, Dule Hill and Martin Sheen. I know that for so many people watching right now, you both are the platonic ideal of what politics can be. And most importantly, thank you for staying engaged and involved, because it would be really easy to just, show up on set, do your thing, make a great show, and kind of step back and fall back into, you know, just having been an actor. But the fact is that you're using your voices now for you know, to stay engaged in this political process. And so, you know, on behalf of myself and everybody watching, thank you so much for doing that, and looking forward to the conversation here.
Yeah, you know, it's my pleasure to be here. I think it's important for all of us to actively stay involved in any way that we can, because when we take our eye off the ball, we take our eye off the prize, then you see what can happen, and it can happen swiftly. You know, when I saw the results of the election last year, I knew that there would be challenges. I knew that there would be an assault on our liberties, but I could not fathom what I'm seeing now. It really breaks my heart when I see our loss of humanity. I see how we are going to the extremes, and we are lacking the ability to find common ground. I mean, we are 1 year in, and these are trying times. And the only way that I feel that we can even have some type of backstop to this onslaught that is happening is by winning in the midterms. And I truly believe, I say to myself often, and I say to others, that democracy works when we, the people, work it. That's how democracy stays alive. And the only way that we can, the best way for us to fight this battle for the soul of our nation, for the character of who we are, is at the ballot box. That's what we have to do. And I truly believe that, all things being equal, if we were given the opportunity to freely vote the way we have, then it would be a no-brainer that the Democrats would win. There would be balance put back into the system, and that would be that. But I do believe that also that these extremist politicians are very aware that they cannot win the battle on their merits. They cannot win re-election on their merits. So the same people who a few years ago were crying about a stolen election and supported people who really, you know, acted in a way that was not supportive of our democracy, are now actually trying to steal an election. They're not even doing it in the shadows. They're being very overt about what they are doing. But what really, I guess, affects me is that they're taking away the voice of the people. It's one thing if you were going to do this redistricting plan and you were going to bring it to the citizens, like bring it to the citizens. That's how democracy works. Let people talk about it. If you were doing it that way and then the people voted for that, I would have nothing to say. But the fact that they're doing it in the dark rooms of the legislatures across the country, at least in Texas now, and attempting to do it in other places, that is where I think is a line too far. And I appreciate what the governor of California is doing, what the legislature here is doing, by giving us the power to have our voice be heard, by giving us a way to be able to stand up for ourselves, and by giving us a pathway to be able to keep our democracy alive. And that's the main reason why I'm here, is to play my part. I always say, if I can get 1 billion people to move 1 billion stones, then we can move a mountain. And I think in this situation, if we can get people to get involved, to get engaged, to support Yes on 50 here in California, and to use their voice across the nation, I believe the Democrats will get back the House. And at that point, we can put some type of balance back into the system, because we've seen what happens when there's imbalance. And right now, it is all out of whack, and there's too much extremism happening in our politics right now. So that's why I'm here, and I'm always down to support in any way I can.
Well, thank you, Dule. And it's all of that was really well said. And I think it's a really important thing that you mentioned, which is, you know, Texas did this behind closed doors. You know, the Trump administration called Governor Abbott's team and said, I need you to find 5 seats. He actually said it. I need you to find 5 seats for me. And then they did this unilaterally. And I think that that's why it's great that we're doing it, and the way Governor Newsom's doing it is the way to do it, with a people-powered movement. And so I want to turn. So I think everybody on this call probably would prefer our new next guest to actually be the president of the United States at this moment. We have Martin Sheen, who has, I think, played a president twice and has been a chief of staff once, and actually has been, I believe, arrested more times than Donald Trump, but for very good reasons, standing up for what's right. So, Martin Sheen, thank you. It is an honor to speak to you. I would love to hear from you about why voting yes on Prop 50 is so important.
Well, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, good. Yeah, Renee left the room. My engineer here is my daughter, who runs this machine. Frankly, I don't own a computer, and I I don't even know how to turn it on if I did have one. So I'm counting on my family here, as Delay well knows. Good to see you again, Delay. Thank you
Always.
for including me in this effort. You know, I've been involved in supporting liberal politics, democratic politics, specifically with the possible exception of John Lindsay when he ran for mayor in 1965 in New York. I supported him, but also that same year I supported Bobby Kennedy in his race for the U.S. Senate. And so this is not, unusual for me to be involved in not just in democratic politics, but in peace and social justice issues, because I can't really separate them. What our governor here in California so bravely did was to stand up to the landslide of effort and lies that are pulling the Constitution and the Bill of Rights down the tubes. And so our effort is to put a stop to it and to retrieve as much as we possibly can. I've never seen it this bad in my life, frankly. And, you know, we've been watching the opposition to Proposition 50 on every local channel we have, and some of the streamers as well, ads against us voting to vote no on 50. And their reasoning is that it's undemocratic to, gerrymander here, and how dare we do this? Why we should stand up as patriotic Americans and stop this. There's not a mention of Texas or the possibility of Missouri or Ohio, God forbid, my home state, or Indiana. And so we have to, we can't always choose our fights. Very often we are called to fight in foreign lands with unfamiliar ground. And this is one of those times. We've never been in this situation before. I've watched this administration. I was watching Kash Patel being drilled by our good senator from California today, and I don't know if any of you saw the exchange between the two of them. It made the national news, but that level of ahead of the FBI or any of the other agencies is astonishing to me. There is no possible way that any of these people at the head of any of the cabinet ministries that we have right now would ever make it in any other administration but Donald Trump. And when they look at each other across the room, around in the cabinet room, and they look at each other, they don't see anyone on the other side, back and forth, that is better than they are, is more heroic, has more courage. They, in a real sense, I suspect they despise each other, because there isn't anyone on the other side that is better than they are. And they are looking at the worst reflection of themselves. And they are reflecting the policy that we're seeing, and that DeLay referred to, about the scandalous masked bandits grabbing people off our streets in public, and disappearing people. And so often when people are at least in normal times, if you want to call it normal, when people were deported, they usually went back to the country they came from. Now they're being sent, basically they're being punished, because very often they're being sent to countries that have they're foreign to them. They don't have the same language, the same culture, and they are thousands and thousands of miles away from their true home. So, and this has become normal. What we're seeing. We saw that when the Marines marched through our downtown park, it was literally a walk in the park. There was no reason for them to be there. It is all that we're seeing is a reflection of a strong man trying to get a grip, and it's slipping out of his hands. Chicago stood up and said, no, please don't come here, and we're going to give you every reason why. We don't need you. We've got good law enforcement. We've got good sanitation care here. We've got good health care. You're not needed here. Please stay home. Look after your families and your states. And so we don't have any choice but to to go in the direction that we're being called by Governor Newsom. And I dare say, and maybe I shouldn't say this offhand, but I think this move was his declaration for the White House. I think he's going to run, and more power to him, and he will have this to his credit. So I'm urging people that to deal with what we have, not with what we wish we had or what we had in the past, but what we have now, which is this opportunity to stop this basic thievery. Thomas Paine said the rights of man are not given by the gracious hand of any state, but must be protected therein. And this is where we have to rise and embrace our Constitution and bring us all together with what really is at stake. We're facing an out of control, chaotic madman who wakes up every day and thinks of a different level of chaos, and his cabinet members, all the people in his administration pick up the lot and they carry it out, and they are all a reflection of him. But I think we're better than that. And I think we can build a better future, and we can end the chaos and end the despair and the feelings of that we don't have any power left. Look at Chicago. Just this week, the madman turned around and said, well, I guess I'm not welcome there. Let's find, Memphis. Oh, yes, of course, Memphis. I can do well there. Well, let's see what happens. But what Governor Newsom has done here in California has struck a chord. It has lit a candle in this darkness. And I pray and hope that people see what's possible and that we can turn this thing around. And this is one very important issue for the whole country to look at and to follow. Yes, on 50. Please, God, yes.
Well said. And for those of you who haven't donated yet, which I don't know how you could not donate after listening to that, please go to yeson50live.com. Push us over the 300,000 mark. All of this money is coming from individuals giving $5, $10, $15, $20. And we are fighting against people who are writing $250,000 checks, $1 million checks. We are going to win this. And I think before we go, I just want to ask one more question for both of you is, you gave us a little bit of hope there. And, I think the West Wing show was something that I watched in high school and then ended up going into politics and worked in the Obama administration and things like that. Leave us with something, Martin, you left us with something really hopeful and powerful. Dule, I want to give it to you the last bit because I know we got to bounce because we've got Congressman Raskin and Congresswoman Crockett on, who, by the way, if we win this ballot initiative, they're going to be the ones subpoenaing, and they're the ones that are going to be asking questions of the Trump administration. So, Dule, I'm going to give you the last word.
Well, I'll say this, the power is in our hands. There's nothing that, if a bunch of people get together, there's nothing that we cannot overcome. I said before, 1 billion people to move 1 billion stones, then we can move a mountain. And even in these dark times, when the cloud is hovering above, the clouds of extremism, the clouds of hate, the clouds of division, just beyond those storm clouds, the sun is always shining. So if we can just keep preaching, keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep our eyes on the prize, I know that we will be victorious. America always has, America will now today, and America always will in our tomorrow, as long as we stay engaged. So let's vote.
I would only add just very simply that fear is useless, faith is necessary. Yes, on 50.
Awesome. We'll leave it there. I was
The
trying a
president
bit.
has spoken.
I was going to say, I was trying a bit where I was standing. You can't really see it in the Zoom, but I was about to say, in this building, when the president stands, nobody sits. Okay. What's next? That was also my nod to you. Thank you all for the time tonight. We appreciate it. And Tim, thank you so much.
Appreciate it too.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much.
All the best to everybody.
Best.
Very excited to have our next guests. We have Adam Mockler, who I could not be more grateful for Adam Mockler's voice in the independent media space. He's one of the biggest voices of Gen Z. He specializes in the rapid fire deconstruction of Republican arguments. If you've been on TikTok, Instagram Reels, on YouTube, you have seen Adam. And thank you so much for the hard work and being such a relentless voice for the left in this independent media space. I'm also very glad to introduce Congressman Ted Lieu. and Congressman Jamie Raskin. Ted Lieu represents California's 36th congressional district. He was my congressman for a hot minute out here in California. He has been an outspoken opponent of the overreach of this administration, and also, I should note, someone who is arguably the first Democrat to embrace independent media. I'm sure if you were on Twitter in the OG days before it devolved into what it is now, you know who Ted Lieu is. So thank you for being an early supporter of this space. And of course, Congressman Jamie Raskin is from Maryland's 8th congressional district. There is no one more clear-eyed about the threats to democracy than Jamie Raskin. You have been an absolute hero for democracy for years and years and years. I know that if for so many of us watching, if we genuflect at the altar of anyone, it's you, Congressman. So looking forward to your conversation, and Adam, take it away.
Thank you for the kind words, Brian. I really want to pass it over to you guys because you guys will have unique takes on this, but from a really high level, a lot of the conversations I have with Republicans on this turn into this tit for tat on which party gerrymandered more, but it's not that. It's a lot simpler. Never in the history of the United States has a president requested for a governor to enact a mid-cycle redistricting with the intent of rigging the midterms in their favor. This is in between two census cycles, and this was intentionally done by Governor Abbott so that Donald Trump could win the midterms. Now, what Governor Newsom is doing is three things. It's proportional to what Texas is doing, it's temporary, and it's democratic. It's going up for a vote, and that's exactly why we're doing this today, so that you guys can help us spread awareness, help us raise more money. And I'd like to pass it over to Representative Ted Lieu. Can you explain the stakes and why it's important to vote yes on Prop 50?
Thank you so much, Adam, and it's such an honor to be here with amazing Jamie Raskin as well. And I know, Brian, you had mentioned our Twitter early on, so I just want to read this text message on Twitter, direct message, July 1st, 2020, from Brian to me. He says, "Hi, Congressman. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in being interviewed for my podcast and YouTube channel, and you know that you typically get 1 million views. You now have over 4 billion views. So congratulations to what you've built." Now, Adam, to answer your question, it is so important, first of all, to support Prop 50, because not only do we fight back against Texas, we do better. Texas created 5 leading Republican seats. California responds, and we create 5 leading Republican seats in this map. There's also an additional 5 districts that are really pretty tough for incumbents. They're known as frontline districts. We strengthen all of them. So this is essentially a map that affects 10 districts. So it actually isn't proportional. It is better. We are fighting back in a better way. And it's also better in the sense that this is the most democratic redistricting ever, because literally the voters are going to be putting the map in.
Representative Raskin, can you build on that?
Yes, indeed. Thank you for having me, Adam. Hello to my buddy Brian Tyler Cohen. Hey, the praise comes right back at you guys for what California is doing here. The whole country is looking up to you right now because of what you're doing, showing exactly how to fight back against this extreme, Hunger Games style gerrymander that they've imposed on us in Texas. Ted gives us some reason to be hopeful that we're not only fighting back, we're fighting back in a more nimble and agile way. But let me just say 2 points. One, Adam, relates to what you began with. Some people are saying, well, 2 wrongs don't make a right. And I just don't know whether we should just gerrymander just because they did it. We should rise above it. Okay, now look, I want everybody to be 1,000% clear about this. We have been trying to abolish partisan gerrymandering in Congress for more than a decade. Look at the For the People Act. The very first plank is to delete partisan gerrymandering all across the country and to impose nonpartisan redistricting commissions in every state. And you know who opposed it? Every Republican. And you know who voted for it? Every Democrat. We've been trying to get America out of this nightmare where the politicians choose the voters before the voters choose the politician for many, many years. But the Republicans thrive on the most anti-democratic mechanisms, whether we're talking about voter suppression tactics, gerrymandering, right-wing judicial activism, manipulation of the Electoral College, insurrections and coups, you name it.
Okay, so we tried to get out of it. They said no. Then, as you said, Adam, they took us from this every 10-year brutal rugby game, which is partisan redistricting and gerrymandering, again, which is more to their advantage than ours because they control today, it's either 27 or 28 state legislatures in their entirety, and we have, I think, 13 or 14. So they can get a lot more out of it, which is why they're wed to it. But we were conditioned to doing it, okay, every 10 years. Now they're saying we're going to do it every 2 years. We're going to do it in the middle of the decade. Just so, as Donald Trump says, we can squeeze 5 more seats out of Texas. Those are our colleagues he's talking about, right? That's like Greg Casar, the head of the Progressive Caucus. That's, Lloyd Doggett, who's a great progressive from Texas who served for several decades, Vicente Gonzalez, Henry Cuellar, Al Green. They're targeting specific people. And you know what? They've already, since Texas, done it in Missouri and Kansas. They went, the other day, they called a special session to eliminate one of our colleagues, the great Congressman Cleaver from Kansas City. And then they're calling one up in Kansas. To go after Sharice Davids. So they are absolutely dead set on doing this. Now, some people think, well, the moral thing, the principled thing is to just let them do it, and we'll stick to the fair redistricting we've got in California or whatever. Nonsense. There's nothing moral, ethical, or principled about laying down and letting authoritarians roll all over us so they can gerrymander our elections and control our government in perpetuity. On the contrary, every principle of political morality demands that we do whatever we can to fight within the existing rules that they have set up in order to win. And we're going to win next year. We're going to do it. And I just want to say one more thing about California, because our oldest daughter is now living out in California, and I'd like to come out and visit my friends out there. And I woke up one morning, I realized I just woke up in a state that has I think it's 41 million or 42 million people. Okay. And I looked it up. There are 20 states, the 20 smallest states have less population than California. So you wake up in California, you've got 2 U.S. senators, 2 fine U.S. senators, but people waking up in all of those other states, Nebraska, Rhode Island, Iowa, South Dakota, Kansas, all those states together have 40 U.S. senators with less population than California. They have 38 more senators than you. So there's already a major structural imbalance that's built into the fabric of the Constitution. But I want to salute the people of California who have found a way to have profound importance and significance in the congressional elections in 2026, just by fighting back against all of the tyrants and authoritarians who think that they can steal elections from us. I yield back to you, Adam.
Some great points, Representative Braskin. Amazing points. If you want to help us fight back, go to yeson50live.com. And one of the most crucial points you made there is that when Democrats were in power, we tried 2 times to ban gerrymandering nationwide. Republicans blocked it. Then when they got into power, they decided to enact the most aggressive, the most radical redistricting we've ever seen, where they splice up Target with such surgical precision that it wins Donald Trump the midterms. They want to rig it, hypothetically, but if you go to yesonlive50.com, yeson50live.com, you can donate. Representative Liu, can I ask you one final question here? One of the reasons why I think people are really getting behind this movement is not only using the mechanisms we have to fight back against Trump's authoritarianism, but also just being assertive as Democrats and fighting back after it feels like the past decade, Trump has over and over gotten one over on us. What do you think about Democrats being more aggressive, going out there and really fighting back?
We actually should, and Prop 50 gives us that chance to do so. This is not something that's next year or 3 years from now. This is literally in less than 2 months, and you can affect what's going to happen in the Trump administration in less than 2 months simply by donating to yesn50live.com. You can also do phone banking. You can go walk door to door, but you can take action right now to fight back against authoritarianism that we're seeing with the Trump administration. And do want to end on some words of hope. I watched the last panel ending on some words of hope. So when I served active duty in the U.S. Air Force, I was at Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama. There's a beautiful Rosa Parks Museum there. And I encourage all of you to visit if you ever go to Montgomery. And I've now gone there twice, the last time with the late, amazing John Lewis. And I remember finishing the tour of the museum and thinking, Rosa Parks would not have been surprised by the Trump administration or President Trump. She experienced far worse in her lifetime, but she never could have imagined Barack Obama winning the presidency twice. She never could have imagined Vice President Kamala Harris, and she never could have imagined what we're going to do next year, which is Speaker Hakeem Jeffries. And that happens if you support YesOnProp50Live.com.
Thank you very much, representatives.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Appreciate everybody being here. And I should note we are just minutes away from passing $300,000 in this Yes on 50 campaign. A quick note for those who are just tuning in right now. The reason that we're focused so much on trying to raise money here is because big moneyed interests across the country who are aligned with this Republican Party are going to pour money into the state because they know that if they can neutralize what's happening in California with this map redraw, then that clears the runway for them to be able to really have a huge advantage in all of the other states. And we're seeing that they're well on their way. They've gerrymandered these maps in Texas, got 5 seats there. They've done so in Missouri, they got a seat there. They're on their way to doing it in Ohio and Indiana and Florida, and that's just the beginning. There is nothing stopping them from taking an especially aggressive and forward-leaning posture with trying to add as many seats as they possibly can, all in an effort to answer the clarion call set forth by Trump. So this is the whole ballgame right here, what's happening in California. But our job, knowing that we now have the great fortune of being able to vote on this thing on November 4th, is to let everybody in the state know what's happening, know what's at stake. And that starts with raising as much money as we can, grassroots donations, even if it's $1, $5, $10, whatever you can afford, so that we can get in front of as many Californians as possible. That means get on their TV screens, get on their computer screens, get on their phone screens, and get in their mailboxes. But it costs money to do so. And so very grateful for the people who are watching right now, the people who are tuned into politics. But now comes the point where we have to all pitch in so that we can reach the people who aren't paying attention, who may not be focused on politics on a daily basis. And while that sounds great for their mental health, the reality is that we need everybody's buy-in here in pushing this effort forward. So if you haven't yet donated, please go to YesOn50Live.com and give whatever you can. Okay, very excited to introduce our next two. We have Olivia Juliana. I first learned of Olivia when Matt Gaetz tried to mock her online, and she used his mockery to raise over $2 million for abortion rights. So what a badass move, and he's out of Congress, and so you got the last laugh. Juliana is a political activist, abortion rights advocate, and a strategist from Texas, so knows firsthand about all the bullshit that's going on right now. She was formerly the director of politics and government affairs at Gen Z for Change, and she's a dear friend of mine. Very happy to have you. And of course, a congresswoman who needs no introduction. Very excited to be introducing Representative Jasmine Crockett. She is one of my favorite people in elected office. She is a badass, a fighter, an attorney, one of the most dynamic and interesting and engaging voices that we have on the left. Could not be more excited to listen to your conversation here.
Thank you, Brian. Well, Congresswoman Crockett, it sure seems like everyone's got something to say about our home, now don't they?
Yeah, for good reason though. It is a hot ass mess. But I am so thankful for California, and not only for the leadership, real leadership that we need in this moment, but also for the people. You know, this is something that is going to be people-led, people-driven, and ultimately the people will decide. And with everything that I've seen about the pushback that we are delivering to this regime that is currently in power, I am believing that the people of California are woke enough to know that it is time to fight fire with fire. And what that means for those in the back that don't understand my language, what that means is that if Texas is going to redistrict and gerrymander and also silence the voices of Black and brown communities, that California will also make sure that they give more voice to their constituents in the form of Prop 50. And so this is just in response to make sure that those bad policies that they are currently signing up for, that they actually have some accountability, because that's what democracy looks like. The final thing that I'll say, so that you can go on with your question, is that today was very interesting. It's always interesting on the Hill or a hot ass mess, either way you want to look at it. But nevertheless, so we're there and we were voting on a rule for a bill. And I was like, what's taking so long? Because I was ready to go debate the next thing. I just knew it was going to pass. They were going to vote it. But it wasn't. It wasn't passing. And in fact, this rule was going down and there were like 6 Republicans that voted with the Democrats. So I was like, well, who are the 6 Republicans? Well, of the 6, I think 3 or 4 were out of California. So we can see that even the threat of actually holding them accountable has made them start to shift how they're voting. In fact, they were able to get enough to switch over so that they could go ahead and pass the rule. But one of the loudest kind of upset people, Kevin Kiley, he did not change his vote because he plans to run. He knows it's going to be an uphill battle. And now he believes that he should be held accountable for how he votes. But my question is, bro, where have you been? You should have been voting in the interest of your constituents anyway. So I'll just leave it there. Right now, even without this thing going to the ballot, they are having an impact.
Well, I'll say this, behind me, I have portraits of Ann Richards and Barbara Jordan. And if you're watching and you don't know who they are, look them up. And it's because of women like this and women like you. I'm glad that you're on my side, because I was at the public redistricting hearings that were held here in Texas about these maps. I was at the one at the state capitol and I was at the one in Houston. And so I sat through 10 hours of public testimony from Texans all over this state who sat there and begged for our Republican lawmakers to have a conscience and to do the right thing. And they sat there, and I'll be honest with y'all, they didn't care. They didn't care. They had made their minds up before they walked into that room. And I think that you are the most uniquely positioned person in the country to really give people insight into what the Texas legislature looks like, what Congress looks like, and what this means for the rest of the country. Because not only are you a member of Congress from Texas, you had your district redistricted, but you were also a member of the Texas legislature. So what is the big picture here that people may not be understanding, and why is Texas so important in this conversation?
Yeah, that's a very good point. First of all, my favorite organization is the Heritage Foundation. and usually I feel like Texas becomes the crash dummy for every single bad type of legislation that they want to try out throughout the South. And so this is no different, right? As it's already been laid out by my colleagues, that they started in Texas, but they were definitely never planning to end in Texas. And if anybody believes that there's something that California did that made them say, well, now we've got to do more, no. This was always their plan. The plan was to start in Texas, but then it was to move on to Missouri. It was to move on to Indiana. They even were trying to go after Clyburn in South Carolina. They're planning to go after Florida. They are trying to do this any and everywhere that they think they can get away with it. And so they wanted to test it out in Texas. That's number one. Number two, we literally have people that are elected to office that are supposed to represent the interests of the people that put them into office. And as we both sat through hearings, because I attended more than one hearing myself, it was interesting to have Representative Vasut, who was leading those field hearings and leading the redistricting, my classmate to the Texas House, pretend that he had no recollection of anything that took place in 2021. Now, listen, I've never professed to have the best memory, but I can remember like yesterday being on the floor, arguing with the Republicans, telling them that we had grown the state by 95% people of color. So the idea that we got 2 new seats because of the growth that Texas experienced, where we added over 4 million people over the last decade once we completed our census, and ultimately we got 2 new Anglo seats. That's that Republican math. That is that Republican math. right? These were Anglo majority seats that they ended up creating. And they're just like, yeah, okay, it worked out. We added 180,000 Anglos in a decade. Each congressional seat is 766,000 people. So you tell me, in fact, that is a microcosm of what they are doing right now. You tell me how 180,000 people end up with 2 seats where they are the majority and the seats are 766,000 people. That is what they are doing. They are not only doing Donald Trump's bidding, but it's at the expense of so many communities that have already been disenfranchised. Texas has over 4 million African Americans, more African Americans than any other state. We had 5 African Americans that had been elected to Congress. When Colin Allred ended up running for the Senate, he was replaced by a non-African American, which is perfectly fine. We then ended up down to 4 African Americans, okay? Now what they're saying is we're gonna cut that into 2. You'll only have an opportunity to elect Al Green or whoever wins the 18th. And really what they're trying to do is set it up to where it's most likely me or Mark Vesey in the Dallas area. So you explain to me how on God's green earth, in a state in which Anglos were not growing at all, and we know that if we look at which group has the vast majority, not the vast majority, but has the plurality of representation, it's actually Latinos in the state of Texas. Latinos have the largest demographic in the entire state. Do they have the largest demographic of opportunities to elect people to Congress? Absolutely not. In fact, we are a majority minority state. We are 60-40. Yet somehow, after these maps were done, we're looking at having less minorities being able to choose their representation. So I want to say that this is bigger than my state, your state. This is about us as the United States and what it is that we are fighting for. There is only one side that is willing to stand up to this regime. There is only one side that is willing to conduct investigations. There is only one side that is willing to hold their incompetency and their feet to the fire. There's only one side. And so while people haven't started to feel the effects of being kicked off their health care, they're about to. While people may not have fully felt the effects of the increases in their utility bills, they're about to. While people already know that these tariffs are already hitting and hitting pretty hard, to the extent that they are shutting down our small businesses, and our farm bankruptcies are up 55 or 58%. Don't remember which one. Already, our farmers are filing for bankruptcy. Yo, like, we are in a crisis, and it is because the Republicans don't have a backbone. So it's time to make sure that we show them that the Democrats are ready to fight. So that means that California, we need you in this moment. We need your dollars, we need your time, and we absolutely need your vote.
Yeah, and I'll close this out with this. In a perfect world, we don't have to do mid-decade redistricting. In a perfect world, partisan gerrymandering is banned. But also in a perfect world, women aren't losing their ability to have children because they're going into sepsis. And children in Texas are having books banned in their schools. These are the things that would happen in a perfect world, but we don't live in a perfect world. We live in reality. And so if you're not sure if you're voting on this for you in California and how this benefits you, well, it benefits a lot of people, and it benefits people like me, young people who live in Texas, where this is our reality every single day. And so you have a chance and an opportunity to not just set yourself up and your future for success, but for young people like me in this state of over 30 million people who just want the chance to build our own American dream.
Perfectly
I love
put. Thank you both. I appreciate you being on. Olivia, Representative Crockett, thank you both for being here. And just one more reminder, this is something that I've done over the last few years, is kind of beg and plead for Democrats to be able to fight. And we have an opportunity here where we actually do have Democrats who are fighting back in California. And other governors and other states are watching what happens right now. And if we want other states, other governors to be able to step up in this existential fight, not just for the Democratic Party, but for democracy, then the reality is that we need to make sure that this works. We need to make sure that there is an incentive structure for other people to say, hey, if we put our necks on the line too, we know that our base is going to show up. We know that donors are going to show up. We know that the grassroots are going to show up. And so this is our opportunity right here to literally put our money where our mouth is. Show some support for the spine that we're seeing from these California Democrats. So if you haven't yet donated to this effort, please go to yeson50live.com. Give a few bucks. Every little bit helps. We are fast on our way to $400,000 in just a couple of hours here. This is we're definitely hoping to get as close as we can to $1 million tonight. So every bit helps. Thank you so much. Okay, very excited to introduce our next two guests. We have a dear friend of mine, Jack Cocciarella, who is a progressive political commentator, and I know he's laughing because I'm having a lot of trouble saying his last name. It's the first time I actually ever said his last name out loud. But in my
Nailed
defense,
it, Brian.
in my defense, you guys look at Cocchiarella and try to do that.
You
without
nailed
any
it.
help.
It just means you love me.
That's it. I do. He is everywhere online. I am so grateful for his voice in this independent media space. He is one of the people who gets it beyond everybody else. So Jack, thank you so much for the work that you're doing on a daily basis, helping make our independent media ecosystem stronger and stronger every single day. And now we have our first Gen Z member of Congress, Congressman Maxwell Frost. Congressman, my only hope is that the next generation of Democrats, which I hope we see start to happen in a big way in 2026, that they look a lot like you. So thank you for being fearless. Thank you for being outspoken. Thank you for being a leader, not just among folks in your generation, but in the party more broadly. So go ahead. I'll let you guys take it away from here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. You're an inspiration to us all. And maybe we're breaking a little bit of news here. I think I said this in our last interview, but I am with my member of Congress. So that makes me very excited. We know the facts of this case. We know the facts of what's happening right now with this administration. We are seeing a rise in a crisis of affordability. That's a fact. There's more law breaking under this administration than ever before. We know it's a fact that Donald Trump, Greg Abbott, they want to disenfranchise Black and brown voters around the country. But I want to talk about feelings real quick. Congressman, how would you feel to make this guy right here very, very, very sad? How would that make you feel? Because I think that's important.
Yeah, I think it is really important. People know it make me feel amazing. And this is actually part of the reason we need to win the majority, because I promise you that one of the first people to receive a subpoena will be Stephen Miller.
Hell yeah.
This guy is one of the most evil people, not just in government, but in this country. And we need to hold him accountable as well.
And his suits, they don't fit at all. He looks terrible. I think it's because like the fabric is repelled by him. Like there's just got to be something about Stephen Miller. I also just looking at him. We don't need to trash him personally, but I think we can. I bet he just doesn't smell great either. But of course, Republicans aren't just focused on Texas. This fight has spread, or I guess it's not a fight. We're taking on the fight. What they're doing is a little bit different, but we certainly know that it wants to spread across the country. Ron DeSantis, certainly someone not new to falling in line with Donald Trump and getting embarrassed because of it. How are we going to make sure that this is a tone-setting moment in California, telling the rest of Republicans across the country, hey, if you, I don't want to say it, you fuck around, you find out?
Well, yeah, and for people who don't know, of course, they're moving forward with Texas. They're trying to figure out other places they can do this as well. They're moving forward with this in Florida as well. Mm-hmm. And we have pulled it across the entire state. Democrats, Republicans, independents come out when they're asked, are you in favor of the state of Florida redistricting to help Donald Trump get a majority? They say no, every single time. And so part of what we're looking to do in our state is make sure that people understand what they're trying to do. And you brought up DeSantis. A lot of people don't know this. DeSantis and Trump hate each other. Donald Trump hates Ron DeSantis. And what Ron DeSantis is trying to do is he's about to not be the governor of Florida anymore next year. He's going to have 2 years where he's not an elected official, but he really wants to run for president. And he knows he can't win that Republican primary without Donald Trump's help. So he has turned into Donald Trump's lapdog that Donald Trump actually hates. And he wants to do everything he can to be in the news, to get a news cycle, to lick the boot of Donald Trump, to try to earn some of that support so he's not completely irrelevant. And that's why we've seen all these things from redistricting, even the Everglades detention facility, the internment camp, Alligator Alcatraz, all this stuff he's doing because the dude wants to run for president. He has no juice. Nobody likes him, even in his own party.
He does not have the sauce. Have you heard his voice? Have you seen his boots?
And so this is what's going on in the state of Florida. I want to make sure people know. Jasmine brought it up. I always tell these people, Project 2025, all this stuff everyone's seeing now, that's Florida 2020. Okay, this stuff that they're trying across this country, they've been doing in the South for a long time. They passed the big, beautiful bill for billionaires, the largest transfer of wealth from the working class to billionaires, the rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer, working class getting poor as well. They know they can't win the election because people are pissed off about it. In fact, Donald Trump sent his top people to Capitol Hill to tell the Republican Party, hey, you got to stop calling it the Big Beautiful Bill Act because it's so unpopular. We got to rebrand it. Bro, you named it the Big Beautiful Bill Act. You have the word beautiful in there. The facts of the matter are so bad that people don't like it, even your own party, and now they're trying to figure out how to change it. It's so unpopular. They know they're going to lose, and so they want to cheat. They want to cheat because they don't want to lose, and that's what's going on right now.
Yeah, they're terrified, and they're also terrified because they know that we do have a bit of hope, and of course the momentum is mounting. I want to talk about not just what we'll do when we do, in fact, win the House back, but the successes that you've already had. You brought up what Stephen Miller and all the rest of those goons like to call alligator Alcatraz. Of course, you made a big move there that I want you to talk about, and maybe we keep it open or reopen it for Stephen Miller, I don't know, in a couple of years. But can you talk about how we're still winning right now and what that means for when we actually do have the House back?
Well, something that I always told organizers when I was on the front lines of Black Lives Matter, and that I think about a lot now as a member of Congress that doesn't have all the seats we want, is when you don't have all the power you want, you use all the power you got. And one of the most important things we can do right now as elected officials is use our powers of oversight, especially as it relates to this, what I would say is a campaign of terrorism on our communities, of going in and kidnapping people and human trafficking them to other countries and other states. And when this facility was open, not just myself, but many other representatives across the state of Florida pulled up and said, we want to go in to see what's going on. And we didn't just do that, we coordinated with a lot of the people engaged in lawsuits. And we were able to find out, what information do you need from the inside? What can we get? We went in there and we got it. I went a second time and spoke with people who were being detained there and got even more information. Many of us did declarations. Some of us served as witnesses in the federal case. And many of you saw that we got that place shut down. A judge came out about a week ago and reversed that. It's going to be back and forth in court. But as of right now, that facility is not operating because of the work of the organizations that filed the lawsuit, but because elected officials said, you know what? We have privilege, we have positions of power. How can we use that to support organizers? How can we use it to support this lawsuit to shut the place down? DeSantis is opening up another one in North Florida, and guess what? I'll be pulling up to that one as well. We got to do everything we can in this moment with what we got. And I'm really proud of that, what we did with Alligator Alcatraz, because I think it shows what happens when elected officials work with organizers, work with the people on the ground. We're not going to win 100% of the time, but sometimes we will win. And it feels good to win. And like it's going to feel good on election day at the end of this year when California passes this.
Absolutely it is. And if you want to make sure that that happens, go to YesOn50, the number 50live.com, YesOn50live. And I want this segment, Maxwell, you and I, to have raised the most. I don't know if that's Brian's going to tell me those numbers later, but I'm going to make the point of saying this is the person that you can really upset. That is our vice president. If you go and donate, I'm going to show it to you again. Jump scare right here.
Show it again.
But this
Everyone
is the
take
guy.
a look at that.
Take a look at that face.
Yeah.
Do
The
you want
higher
that
number
face
you
to
donate, the more you don't like him.
Exactly. I need y'all, and we'll do it one more time. This guy right here. Are you serious?
There. Oh my God.
Please. Yeah. YesOn50live.com. Turn out and fight, people.
Awesome. Thank you both. I should note that worked because we just passed $400,000. So thank you for
Only
showing...
good thing Stephen Miller ever did is help us raise money.
Thank you for showing his ugly ass face. We appreciate it. And thank you to everybody who's donated. For those who haven't yet donated, this is the whole ballgame here. We've been begging for Democrats to fight. This is what it looks like for Democrats to fight. They've done their part. We've got this thing on the ballot on November 4th. Now it's just a matter of making sure that we can raise enough money, grassroots, so that people all across this state know what's on the ballot, know what the stakes are in this upcoming election. So if you haven't yet donated and you have a few bucks, donate here instead of going and getting a coffee somewhere. 5, 10, 15 bucks. It makes a huge difference. And you can add your own name to the throngs of people who've already donated. We are fast approaching $500,000 in just a couple of hours tonight. And if you really hate that guy, if you really hate Stephen Miller and JD Vance, then your way to show that right now is to go to yeson50live.com. All right, Jack and Congressman Frost, thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate it. Okay, very excited to bring up our next two guests. We have a dear friend of mine, Elizabeth Booker Houston. She is a lawyer, a public health official, stand-up comedian, political commentator. She gained national attention for legal analysis, blending legal analysis with satire, and her viral rebuke of conservative pundit Ann Coulter at the Democratic National Convention. Anybody who can do that is A-OK in my book. EBH is a badass, and we are so lucky to have her voice as part of this movement on the left. And she's joined by the leader of the Democrats in the House, Hakeem Jeffries. Thank you for first and foremost embracing the independent media space. I know that it's been especially important. I know the Democratic Party is oftentimes like a cruise ship, not exactly the easiest boat to turn, but your embrace of this space has made all the difference. So very much appreciate that, and looking forward to your conversation here.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much, Brian. Well, hello, House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries. How are you doing this evening?
Good, Elizabeth. Great to be with you.
It's nice to talk with you too. And this is not the first time we've interacted. As a lot of folks know, I also wear a hat as one of the Congressional Black Caucus creators. So I'm always excited to talk to our amazing CBC members, and especially when it comes to an issue like this. And so folks, I'm just going to go ahead and put it at the top before we start into the interview. Yes, on 50live.com to donate. So if you are liking this conversation, I want you to go over there and donate. Remember that the Republican Party is strange, so drop us some change. If you want to make Trump holla, go give us $1. That's what you need to do. Okay, so let's get into this conversation. I want to talk about what's going on with gerrymandering in all of the states and why it's extremely important to tackle this issue and why California is so important. So I know that Missouri State Representative Ray Reid was on earlier tonight on the live, and I covered a lot of what was going on in the Missouri House, where they were trying to do a sit-in to stop the gerrymandering there. And so it's not just Texas, it's not just Missouri. We see that this is an issue that Republicans are spreading everywhere to steal seats. Leader Jeffries, tell me, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, this is an all hands on deck effort. I'm so thankful for the leadership of the California congressional delegation, Governor Newsom, the legislative leaders, members of the California legislature, the people of the great state of California for rising up to respond. What we're in the midst of right now is an unprecedented effort by Donald Trump and the extremists to gerrymander congressional maps all across the country as part of their effort to rig the midterm elections. Why are they doing it? Because they know that if the votes go to the people in a free and fair election, they're done. They're finished. They're cooked. The majority is gone. And so they've embarked in this unprecedented effort to try to mathematically stop us as Democrats, more importantly, stop the people from throwing them out of office because of their failure to deliver on their core promises of making life better for the American people and lowering the high cost of living. And instead, what they've done is to rip healthcare away from everyday Americans, steal food from the mouths of children, and in the context of their one big ugly bill, enact massive tax breaks for their billionaire donors. So they know they've got zero track record to run on. They are actively doing harm to the American people, and they only have a 3-seat majority.
That's all they have. And that's why they're trying to steal these extra seats. That's why they're trying to pull them up. And so we know what's going on with Prop 50 here in California is to basically counteract what was going on in Texas. And I did have the opportunity to be on the ground in Texas, in Austin, and covering what was going on with the redistricting there to snatch up 5 seats. And so we see that Governor Gavin Newsom is trying to counteract that by taking away 5 Republican seats in California. And I don't consider that cheating. I consider that trying to even the scales, because the Republicans started by cheating. They started by trying to steal. And so now we see that the Democratic Party is trying to bring that balance back and properly represent the people. Because as you said, Leader Jeffries, things haven't gotten cheaper. They said that life was going to get cheaper. They said that they cared about children. They were the pro-life party. But as you pointed out, they've cut health care. They have cut SNAP benefits for children. They have not made good on any of the promises that were part of that campaign. And we're seeing this pushback, not just here in California. I think it's important for us to talk about how this is also going to set a standard for other blue states and governors in blue states. I had the opportunity to interview Governor Wes Moore, who was my governor in Maryland last week. And he said he is ready to redistrict and get rid of the one Republican congressional seat that we have here in Maryland. How important is Prop 50 right now, not just for California, but for setting the stage for other governors like Wes Moore and other states who are trying to push back and fight back?
It's a great question. We are in a more is more environment, and one thing builds upon the next. And so we started in Texas, and I'm thankful for the Texas Dems in the State House who had the courage to break quorum. And I visited them in Texas before they left, and then spent time with them in Chicago during the quorum break. And part of the reason that they took that extraordinary action was so that they could raise awareness about this national gerrymandering scheme that Republicans were engaging in to try to rig the midterm elections and to inspire action in other places. And then the baton was passed to California, which is why it's so important. Yes, on Prop 50, stop Trump from stealing the election. And what the people of California do, we've got to win this race. We need the resources. Republican mega billionaires who want to buy this country are going to try to buy the election.
Now, Leader Jeffries, hold on, because they said they were for the people. Are you telling me they're for the billionaires? Because that doesn't sound like what Trump and them were promising, though.
I mean, they lied. This is what they do for a living. This is not a government, a country of the people, by the people, and for the people that Republicans are delivering. It's of the billionaires, by the billionaires, and for the billionaires. We saw it on day one of his presidency. It was like a supervillain convention that was gathered in the Capitol. It was insane. And then they embarked on this scheme, the one big ugly bill, to reward their billionaire donors by taking from everyday Americans, including ripping healthcare away. So that's why, you know, it's going to be important for us to decisively get this done in California. Make sure that whatever has been done in Texas, and we're challenging those maps because we believe those maps violate both the 14th Amendment of the Constitution as well as Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, because what they did in Texas, these Republican extremists, is to racially gerrymander. And it's important to note that what you're supporting in California in Prop 50 is a forceful response, but it's also a response consistent with our values, because the California map that will be before the voters is in complete compliance with the Voting Rights Act.
It's not any sort of racist practice. It's not discriminatory in any kind of way based on an immutable trait, as we know in our anti-discrimination laws. And I think that's a great point that you bring up that people need to understand. And I'm just going to do another plug in the middle of this interview, y'all, because look, if the Republican map start making any sense, y'all need to donate your cents. So I need you to go ahead. I need you to go to yeson50live.com and make your donation. And I think we're kind of getting toward the end of our time here. But I will have just one more quick question for you. You know, I want to know, what do you think, if we can actually go ahead and turn things around for the midterms in 2026? Because we talk a lot about the negatives and what we're fighting against. Tell people what we're fighting for. What can the Democratic Party do in 2026 if we are able to flip the House, flip the Senate? What can we give to the American people?
Well, our message to everyday Americans is simple. We hear you, we see you, we feel you, and we know that you deserve better. And what we want to tackle on your behalf, one, the high cost of living is out of control. We have to lower the high cost of living in the United States of America on all the things to make sure that people can actually live the American dream, live the good life, good paying job, good housing, good health care, good education for your children, and a good retirement once you work hard and play by the rules. But the problem is far too many people are doing those two things and can't get to the American dream. The system has been rigged against them. We want to unrig the system. We want to fix our broken healthcare system, and we want to clean up corruption to actually deliver a government that makes life better for the American people. That's what you deserve. You clearly deserve better.
Well, y'all heard it here. We want to make sure you have health care, you have education, you have scholarships, you have funding for your schools, you have housing you can afford. And I just want to thank you so much to House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries for taking the time to lay it out for the people. And thank you, Brian Tyler Cohen, and of course to Governor Gavin Newsom and his team for having us on. Just a reminder again, go to yeson50live.com to donate.
Awesome. Thanks, Elizabeth, and thanks, Leader Jeffries. We appreciate it. Now comes the point in the evening where I shamelessly trot out my dog. And if you're not going to donate for democracy, then at least do it for this 14-year-old dog right here. If ever there was a reason to open up your wallets and just make a little, surrender a little contribution, it's for this guy right here. I should also note that we are well past $450,000. We're making our way up to 500 grand right now. So if you have not yet donated, please help us reach this milestone of $500,000 in just a couple of hours here, as my dog very quickly sprints out of the room. Okay, very, very excited for our next couple of guests here. We have Lysandra Vasquez, who is a Puerto Rican-born, Atlanta-based stand-up comedian, actor, activist, and creator. I recently started following her. She is legit my favorite new follow on all of social media. I love following you. Congratulations on your explosive growth online. It could not be more deserved. So thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for giving everybody a little bit of comic relief as we descend deeper into the hellscape that is our politics today. She will be joined by Congresswoman Latifah Simon, representing California's 12th Congressional District. Congresswoman is a 30-year veteran organizer and nationally recognized advocate for civil rights and social justice. And of course, we ask you to yet again take up the mantle of fighting as we find ourselves in the position that we find ourselves in right now. So I'll leave it to both of you. Take it away.
I'm here for it. Lysandra, how you doing?
Hi, thank you so much for being here with me. Rep. Simon, I wanted to ask you about the gerrymandering stuff first, but you know what? Everybody's pretty much covered that. I want to talk to you about your district. Your district is in Northern California, and it is extremely special because it is Oakland. I lived in California for 13 years. So I know Oakland, I know Berkeley, I know that area, and I know it's extremely diverse.
Yeah.
With your district being up there and the increase of the dangerous rhetoric for Black and Brown people and for immigrants, I know that impacts your community just so much, just as it impacts the rest of the country. So in times like this, I feel like we need to come together, and with what's going on, it feels kind of hopeless for us, the Black and Brown folks and anybody that's marginalized. Why do you think that people of California, of the Bay Area, should be getting up, and literally anywhere in California should be getting up and voting yes for Prop 50?
I appreciate, first of all, it's so awesome to meet you. It's amazing to be on this call tonight. I'm actually not hopeless. I actually have a lot of hope because we have this opportunity with Prop 50. I'm a new member of Congress. Many folks know that, for 30 years, literally since I was a young woman, a teenager, I've been organizing all over California and throughout the country, repping for young single mothers like I was one. I am a widow, I'm disabled. And as a Black woman who understands really the intersectionality of how we all move forward, Prop 50 is an opportunity. And I want to be clear. This is not politics as usual. Prop 50 is about survival. If we lose, and I am always half full, right? But if we lose, there's no movement. I want to be clear, being a new member of Congress, I'm clear, I'm on that floor every single day. There will be no 2026. Every struggle, every civil rights struggle, our workers' rights struggles, the fight for women's rights, the ADA, the love for our immigrant communities, it depends on us keeping the ground that we have already won. I got to tell you, We're talking about an administration in 8 short months who has ripped you and your grandmother of Medicare, lessened food benefits for poor families, has ended clinical trials at second stage for children fighting cancer. This president, and I'm gonna end here, sis, this president is hell-bent on stripping our folks of every single hard-won fight and right that we have bled for. So it's more than gerrymandering. Prop 50 provides the people of California with the opportunity to flex our power to take back the dreams that we all have fought for. I believe that so deeply as an 11th generation American to the first generation Americans that I have been working with and working for. What's happening right now in Washington, D.C., this experiment of this republic is almost over, and I believe in this country. Prop 50 gives us the opportunity to fight back with all that we have, and we will win. So I am hopeful.
Yes, I could listen to you talk all day.
Wow,
I'm gonna make it
I'm
my
pumped.
ringtone.
I'm pumped. We have to win.
Yeah, no, we have to win. And that's why if you can donate, you should yes on 50live.com. Okay, so I know that it's a big ask because like I know people, it's hard to ask people to donate money. Why do you think it's a worthwhile thing for somebody to take their hard-earned dollars and donate it to a cause like this?
Yeah, I love the question. And so, like many folks on the call, we're all students of movements. Whether you know how your parents ended up in this country, they fought like hell to give you a better life, or like me, I've been a student of the civil rights movement. I've been studying Keynesian nonviolence all my life with working with young people on the ground. If we can literally all give 5, 10, 25, $50, $3,000, whatever you have, what you do in this campaign, you are directly funding folks to organize in communities. We want folks to actually say, I'm going to take time off work. I'm actually going to be a paid organizer. I'm going to print window signs. I'm going to literally go into every laundromat. Remember, this campaign is not just about fighting the oligarchy. It's about making sure that mother who doesn't have quarters for laundry understands that she has the power to ensure that we keep medical care for elderly folks and for disabled folks, that we fight back against the homophobic and transphobic administration that is throwing all of our children under the bus. I'm a single mom. I've run campaigns myself to get into office. All
right, folks. So it is 10:18 my time. I'm going to cut it off, but I appreciate everybody who stayed and watched. Sorry about the audio issue earlier. I thought I had that figured out, but I did not. If you want to donate to help Proposition 50, you got to go yeson50live.com, yeson50live.com, and you can donate to contribute there. Remember, just close by saying this. We always ask the Democratic Party to fight, and the Democratic Party often lets us down. Well, Governor Newsom and the California Democrats, they're fighting back with Proposition 50. And so I think we have an obligation to support them however we can. Certainly if you're a California voter, register to vote. Make sure you're registered and get out and vote in that special election on November 4th. If you can contribute in other ways, that would be great as well. But it's like an incentive structure. Remember, politics is transactional. You demand something your politicians, they step up, and they're human too. If you want them to keep stepping up and delivering, it's got to be a feedback loop. You ask, they deliver, you reward them. You ask, they deliver, you reward them, and so on and so forth. So let's do that here. I really appreciate it. I'm ending the stream now. Go to yeson50